Grace and peace. Do me a favor. Type one if y'all can hear me.
Greetings. So here's a quick hypothesis which I'd like to propose. The infamous sock puppet called Richard Katz, PhD with a capital H, which was purported to be a Tel Aviv-based Hebrew professor, was actually created on the 3rd of December 2020, which is to say on this day 1 year ago. Now, that immediately raises a question. Why do I think that's likely the case? Well, consider a couple of pieces of evidence in favor of that hypothesis. First, note that the cat sock puppet was trotted out in response to the revelation that Pastor Majors of the Boom Church had misrepresented the scholar David Bunis, the actual flesh and blood scholar David Bunis. And the first video which revealed that some of that misrepresentation dropped on December 3rd. Moreover, when Bunis sent out an email to both me and Pastor Majors, making explicitly clear that he was misrepresented, that email
Type one if
was
y'all
sent
can hear.
out on
Okay.
December 3rd. More specifically, at 11:50 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember that date and time, right? Now, because that's going to come up in a second. Now, moreover, when Will Brown started hinting that he actually had a second scholar, he wasn't relying just on Bunis. His posts, his YouTube community posts, which alluded to such, started dropping on December 3rd. Like, for example, he took this post down, but this is from a screenshot that's still on Facebook. And the Facebook post was posted on the evening of December 4th at a point when the relevant YouTube community post from our friends over at the Boom Church was 22 hours old. Therefore, the community post was put up on December 3rd. And beyond that, when Kelly Richardson showed the email correspondence between Brown and the cat sock puppet, the timestamp on the correspondence began on December 3rd. More specifically, the first email was sent at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, less than 2 hours after Bunis sent out his email explicitly stating that he was misrepresented. So I would propose that today is likely the first birthday of the cat sock puppet. Now, admittedly, I can't prove that definitively, but today does seem like the most likely candidate for the date of the creation of the cat sock puppet. Therefore, this seems like an auspicious time to do a sort of year in review and discuss some of the perhaps lesser known high points and low points of the controversy over the last year. First, as many know, the Berean TV channel tried to explore the controversy fairly when it first started. Unfortunately, supporters of Will Brown tried to circle the wagons and encourage people to unsubscribe from Berean's channel. They sort of maligned Berean's character. Brown himself at that time was explicitly declaring that everyone, quote, must stand together as a nation, end quote, in reaction to the controversy. Now, that was an obvious bit of emotional manipulation where he was trying to convince other Israelites that this controversy, which honestly really only impacted him and maybe Kelly Richardson, so at most the controversy impacted two people, he was trying to convince Israelites that this controversy was somehow an attack on the entire Israelite spectrum, which is why he was calling on people to, quote unquote, stand together as a nation against, the revelation that they trotted out a made-up scholar. Sadly, many were taken in by that manipulation. And however, the following July, the Issachar channel took a fresh look at the controversy in a video titled, quote, a playbook that plays with the truth, end quote. Now, in that video from July allowed some people to revisit the subject and reconsider the evidence, right? And some of the comments on that video showed that Issachar had helped some people break free from that, aforementioned emotional manipulation. I'd like to read a couple of those comments. One person wrote the following, quote, when all this stuff was going down at the end of last year with the Pews and with the Urban Apologist, I was also following the crowd, and it was the actual drama of it all that made me fall back from all parties involved, because honestly, they were talking in a circle and none of it was edifying. The Pews was the final straw. And instead of people speaking up about the inconsistencies of the email and actual findings and existence of Richard Katz, people, like you said, Unc, began to back off the topic and started talking about other things they began to proclaim how it didn't matter if Kelly or Brown were lying or not because the Pews don't validate our heritage. To this day, they refuse to show who Katz is and how he came to his conclusion. I'm sorry, but if they walk in the Messiah, why are they scared to reveal the truth? We don't walk in fear. We walk in truth and light, not darkness. I actually watched the video in the description when it first came out, and when Kelly did his rebuttal, I only was more confused, but I let it slide because they were beefing with the UA and Abu, and I had witnessed racism coming from the UA, so I thought Abu was trying to discredit Kelly and Brown. But revisiting this all these months later, I can no longer ride for this foolishness. I agree, the pews don't validate who I am, and it's a shame that this turned into a smear campaign rather than Kelly or Brown answering the questions and being transparent with their findings. Instead, they slander and keep their findings and their so-called professor in the dark, and we're just supposed to literally take their word for it. I Googled Richard Katz months ago, and all I found was the guy in Georgia who doesn't study the Hebrew language. People at the time kept saying that all you got to do is Google search, but that is a lie. Bro Berean was trying to bring this to the light back then, but because he was cool with Abu and the UA, we dismissed it and thought of it as more of as an attack than a wake-up call. I know this was long, but thank you, Unc Dwayne, for revisiting this. I almost forgot about it because I had stopped following Kelly and Brown because the Richard Katz thing didn't sit right with me. End quote. And then I'd like to read just one more comment, a shorter comment, a second comment, which reads as follows. Quote, thank you, Brother Dwayne, for this video. I was convicted by this video. I, too, although just a spectator, was quickly drawn into all the drama that Richard, Kelly, and the Pews came with. I unsubscribed from channels only to see that Kelly and William both have created unstable patterns that made me question their motives. When I see the Pew issue, when I've seen this Pew issue come back up and actually listened from a neutral position, I agree with you. I owe Brother Berean TV an apology because he was the first to touch the sensitive subject and they all dragged him, and I followed the crowd. Later on, I grew extremely tired of the crying Kelly has done numerous times on various platforms, all about himself. And William was recently promoted to bishop, which made me highly skeptical. There is nothing you mentioned here that I disagree with. Thank you for bringing light to this, end quote. So I want to say thank you very much to Issachar for revisiting the subject because he, as I said, he allowed people to get past the emotional manipulation which was used to blind people to the reality of this fiasco. But moving on from that, more recently, Orthodox Moore has been very explicit about the fact that the Katz is fake, To his credit, now, I have to say that Orthodox Moore has been skeptical the entire time, and he's made his skepticism clear for the entirety of the past year. But he went out of his way during that time. He went out of his way to try to be as fair as possible to William Brown and Brown supporters. However, unfortunately, as recently as last month, that crowd, was still invoking the Katz controversy as some sort of a justification for introducing still more secret scholars. You see, they had concocted a fictional narrative about the Katz sock puppet being harassed, and they used that fiction to justify the introduction of multiple secret scholars on the grounds that they can't reveal those scholars' identities for fear of exposing them to the same alleged harassment which they allege befell the Katz sock puppet. And so as they were even using this sort of argument in their disagreements with Orthodox Moore, they pretty much forced his hand in terms of, speaking out on the reality of the Katz controversy. So here's what Orthodox Moore had to say just last month in response to people who are continuing to use the Katz sock puppet as a justification for bringing up secret scholars.
And definitely no secret scholars. We all still got a bad taste in our mouth over that whole Richard Katz stuff. That was a bad look for the whole community. Because Richard Katz is obviously not real. And it was obviously a fabrication at this juncture. There's no two ways about it. And we as a community are owed an apology for that whole because we all had to wear that. And the brothers involved don't want to touch the topic with a 10-foot pole anymore. Won't return communications behind closed doors to have conversations that they've already agreed to have. And if you address it publicly, they want to start a campaign against you, much like what's going on here, to where it's got to be gaslighting, and we're not dealing with the facts on the matter. Now check this out. I can say that Katz is fake, and ain't no one gonna come at me, right?
And then the very next day, Orthodox Moore briefly visited the subject again in a discussion with Sister E. So as you listen to this clip, note how Sister E says that she herself was quite mad about the cats controversy. Unfortunately, she has yet to elaborate on her true feelings, that what she felt during that controversy. But I must confess, I'd love to know what precisely Sister E was mad about. I would love to correspond with her or talk with her about the subject. I'd love to hear her read her true thoughts on the controversy. And I want to put emphasis on her thoughts, right? With all due respect, I'm not interested in a sort of dismissive, hand-waving declaration of, quote, go discuss that with Pastor Majors, end quote. Look, of course, it would be great if Brown actually addressed the subject, but it doesn't seem like he's going to do so. And more importantly, as with regards to what we're talking about now, Brown can't speak on Sister E's thoughts, right? He can't say what she was feeling. And I'm interested in hearing or reading her thoughts, what she actually felt as the controversy unfolded, right? But whatever the case, here's the clip of Orthodox Moore and Sister E briefly discussing this controversy last month, a couple of weeks ago.
I sat through the whole Richard Katz thing, and that was horrible for our community, sis. I'm not doing that again. We all wore egg on our face for that one, right? So that's what I'm saying. I'm not letting hold on real quick. So hold on. So I'm not letting people run amok in the public anymore and act like, no, it's not going to get checked. It's fun to get checked. And again,
I'm gonna get ready to do some private where all of us can talk, because we got to iron these differences out, especially with the cats. I'm not the cats thing pissed me off more than anybody, and I think that needs to be addressed as well.
Right, because the same situation is happening. Like, so if I try to, like, if people, not me, ain't no one coming to me crazy. So if people try to address the cats thing, they're gonna go, oh, well, you're supporting a boo and blah blah blah. That's why I said check this out. If a boo is the bad guy, I'm way worse than a boo, because I took harder stances than a boo took. Yeah. And I'm going to continue to, because this is my community. You feel what I'm saying? We need to be held accountable. We need to hold each other accountable.
And of course, let me say that I thank Orthodox Moore for being consistently fair on this subject, and I thank him for being so candid over the course of the last month. I also thank Sister E for, at least for that moment, sharing that she herself felt a certain anger about the cats controversy. Moving on from that, it's also worth noting that just this week, our good friend Dante Fortson came out and publicly stated that cats was not real. Now, to Dante's credit, he was actually saying the same thing in private behind the scenes for quite some time. He told Berean pretty matter-of-factly in private behind the scenes that, that he knew that, the cat sock puppet wasn't real, that this was all a lie, right? But as far as I know, this is the first public statement from Dante, not somebody else leaking it. This is him himself putting in public on Facebook, at least that I'm aware of, right? So to give some context to the comment on your screen, our good friend Tazada has been arguing, now this is somewhat separate from the cats controversy, but Tazada has been arguing that a position I take on the existence of dark-skinned Jews contradicts a position that Faithful to God has taken. So part of the argument that was going on was that if I'm not more vocal about this alleged disagreement with Faithful to God, then that shows a lack of integrity or accountability on my part, right? So in the midst of that discussion, Orthodox Moore was encouraging Tazadal to keep pressing us, keep pressing me, keep pressing, Faithful to God, keep pressing anyone else on the issue of accountability. But then Orthodox Moore said that likewise, they should also hold other Israelites accountable. And he brought up the cats fiasco as an example of where there might be a lack of accountability amongst Israelites, right? So the comment on your screen, if you're interested in that subject, I'm sure Tazara, who's always welcome to comment here, can elaborate, and you can also visit his page, and I'll post links in the video description. But the controversy aside, the comment on your screen from our good friend Dante was responding to that. He was responding to Orthodox Moore saying, like, let's hold everybody accountable. Let's hold Abu accountable. Let's hold Faithful accountable. And let's also hold the people who push that cats nonsense accountable, right? And so Dante was responding to that, right? And so here's what Dante wrote. I'm, focusing on the highlighted portions, which are most relevant to this video. Dante wrote at one point, quote, "The only people riding with that cats nonsense are those that defended it to begin with," end quote.
Shot fired, Dante.
Then he went on to say, quote, "The cats thing is BS, and we all have already agreed to that," end quote. Let me just say, up front that I really appreciate these public comments from our good friend Dante Fortson. You know, as has been said before, I'd like to say it again now. Shout out to Dante. And, you know, as for people who unlike Dante, tried to defend the cat shenanigans, I'm sorry to say that Benaiah Israel was among them. You know, the Facebook post on your screen is from last July, and in it, Benaiah repeats the false charge that people harassed the sock puppet and threatened the sock puppet's job. He even complains about Issachar revisiting the subject. Honestly, this post was a low point for Benaiah, and the most charitable thing I can say is that I hope this was the result of him being sincerely deceived by others and not an instance of him trying to consciously defend deception. But that aside, I again want to express my sincere gratitude to Dante for being so honest. It was said around this time last year that Dante was giving out Christmas presents, and perhaps it could be said that as this comment was just in time for the first birthday of the cat sock puppet, this year he gave us all a Catsmas present. So on that note, I'll close here. I'll close by wishing a happy first birthday to the cat sock puppet and wishing a very merry Catsmas to all who are watching. As
This is why folk don't like Abu. He one thing Abu does is keep receipts and stuff, and he'll share certain things, and he's part of the community. But he's real. It's kind of touchy with him when we're dealing with people and we're dealing with their faith and stuff like that. Let me pull this other thing up. I'll let him know, fair use. I let him know that I was gonna play some of this. Some people feel that he's basically after the Israelites. I'm going to show y'all something else, but I want to play a video, and then I might play something from Faithful and how he deals with certain things and why some people are kind of offended with him. But I got to ask some fair questions. Is Abu a devil? Is Abu a devil? We got to ask certain questions because he's looking into things. He's going behind, checking stuff out. We're living in the time that people don't want to deal with a lot of stuff. Let me try to see if I can pull this one other video up. And this one is short right here, but this is kind of what got him got people upset. Let me see which one. I'm gonna click this and I can look at my phone. And he saved clips and he saved dates and all of this other stuff. Y'all can go through and look at some of this stuff here. Now, my thing is he wicked because he's doing this stuff? Somebody's been moving goalposts, and I hate to, revisit all of this other stuff. To me, it's no big thing. A lot of people offended. They feel that I ride with Israel and I'm a believer and this and that. I think Cherry and she on live right now talking her talk. She ain't explained that other thing I brought up the other day with them receipts and who got in touch with who. She ain't explained that, but she got into a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm not sure if y'all can read a bunch of this right here, but I wanted to show this, and these are some things that Abu's, he have up on his page. Let me see if I can bring this other thing up. I want to show y'all this. Where does Santa Claus come from? Where does Santa Claus come from? That's a fair question. Where does Santa Claus come from? Let me play this right here, and this is the same pastor. Shout out to Pastor. Shout out to everybody. I don't got no beef. Shout out to everybody. Let me see if this thing will play. Which one is it? All right, this might be it right now. No, this is not it. Let me see. All right, my screen is not. Let me close this one all together.
Pope Nicholas V has now been given sainthood. So instead of calling him Pope Nicholas, what would you call him? Saint Nick. This is where you get Santa Claus from.
Word? Wow.
Yeah. Pope Nicholas V, right? Pope Nicholas V has now been given sainthood. So instead of calling him Pope Nicholas, what would you call him? Saint Nick. This is where you get Santa Claus from.
I didn't mute myself. Hopefully that wasn't echoing too much. What do we do with a boo? What do we do with a boo? People like a boo, people like Faithful, they're in the community. They're talking. A lot of people don't like certain things that's being said, but if we want to be fair and we say we're looking into things, we got to deal with whatever's put on the table. If I get out here and I make some comments publicly, I have to defend the comments or retract the statement. Santa Claus, when we start dealing with Santa Claus, that comes from Bishop Nicholas of Myra. He was at the Nicene Council. They said him in areas they were going back and forth, and some traditions say that he slapped them. He was a bishop that had money, and he gave away a lot of stuff. He would leave coins in front of people's houses and throw them in windows. Somebody said he threw some coins in windows and they fell over in some socks that some people were drying, and that's where the tradition come from of hanging socks on the fireplace and stuff like that. We got to deal with there's a lot of false information on the internet, and people shouldn't be afraid to be corrected. We got to make sure we're dealing with the original sources when we deal with stuff, and we can't be involved in trying to spread whatever we believe, and we'll just start saying anything and start making stuff up. There's a lot of false stuff on the internet. I'm gonna drop the link in here if anybody wanted to jump on and just share anything. But he's part of the community. You know them dudes, as far as I'm concerned, they all right. Everybody's needed. Everybody's needed to, some people needed to bring clarity. There's some people out here that's teachers. Clearly, Abu is sharp. People want to be offended with him, thinking he's trying to stop the awakening or anything. But clearly, he's a sharp dude, And if anybody has some information and they can add to anything, the DNA, if they can add to anything, some historical facts, references, I don't see a problem with it at all. There was another sister, somebody mentioned her, and I looked up and I seen that she was on with Garfield before. So I looked and I see she was getting it in with Faithful of God. I'm going to play a little bit of that. And of course, people have attitudes, but I try to look past the attitude, how people present themselves and stuff like that, and deal with the information. And that's the reason I'm playing this. I want people to, I believe he is. A lot of people don't like him or whatever. And to be in all actuality, I met a boo through Sister E. She was on and they were back and forth. And when that thing started, that's how I kind of got connected with Abu, with the whole thing with the pews and stuff. But it was through Sister E. She had correspondence with with them back and forth when she was trying to organize, bring that little discussion together. They had some words and they were back and forth and stuff. I'm gonna play this other video that I'm gonna get out of here. Let me see.
If this is referring to Israelites who are now living in Moab and identifying as Moabites, because notice that these men were Israelites living in the land of Moab, and their distinction as being from the people of Israel is in view. Whereas the distinction of these women is not that they're of the people of Israel living in Moab, but that they're literally the women of the people of Moab, Moabitesses. Okay, so when we get down, and I'm almost done. I want you to follow along, and I'm going to show it on my screen. I thought I was sharing my screen, and then I'll let you go. And I promise you'll get a substantial amount of time. I will not interrupt you. I'll let you go. I promise. Okay. So when you look at Ruth, and I'm doing this in the King James because I know you have problems with other translations. Albeit I can go into why I don't think the King James is the best translation, but nevertheless, I'll still use it. Here, when we look at Ruth 1, and notice what it says in 16, and Ruth said, entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God, my God, which would make zero sense if she's an Israelite, because her people would have been her people already. She would have been of the people of Israel, simply living in the land of Moab. This is a conundrum. And I think that this presents the issue because when we look at the ancient Israelites and how they interpreted Ruth, they didn't look at Ruth as being an Israelite. They looked at Ruth as very much being of the women of Moab. So I'll let you go. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So we know that in the land of the Israelites had conquered the land of Moab, killing all the people found there. And that was written in Deuteronomy 32 through 34. So right there, it lets you know that all the Moabites were killed in the land of Moab. So with that being said, we know that that land was now inhabited by the Israelites because the Most High gave that land over to the Israelites. Therefore, it's the reason why Ruth was in that land in the beginning to begin with, because that land, like it said in Deuteronomy 21 through 30, Deuteronomy 2 to 30, 32 to 34, that the Most High delivered them in within their hands. So the Most High was against the Moabites. Also, it says that the Moabites cannot get into the kingdom within the 10th generation. So is the Most High a contradiction? Or why would he allow King David or Solomon to rule on the throne if a Moabite cannot rule on the throne within the 10th generation? Also, we have a scripture as well that excuse me, let me pull up my scriptures because I have a whole lot of stuff that I have written up about this, but as for time's sake, wasn't prepared for this. But like I said, we know that the Most High cleared out that land belonged now to the Jews, and that's the reason why the reason why the Israelites was able to inhabit that land, as well as we know that Ruth had said that you are my Boaz was of her kinsmen. That they said Ruth was of their kinsmen. So if Ruth was of their kinsmen and Boaz was an Israelite, as well as the land was in the book of Deuteronomy, it said the land was completely demolished of the Moabites. They were all killed off. So that land of being the Moabites is not their land. It's Moab, but they're not there anymore. That land was given over to the Israelites. That's why Ruth was there. Also, like it's written that a Moabite cannot inhabit the kingdom until the 10th generation. And we know that King David and Solomon were not up until the 10th generation. There will only be 3 generations. So right then and there, it lets you know that that she was not a Moabitess. That she was just of the land of the Moabites. She was in that land, but she was not by DNA or by blood, if anything, of Moabite, because it would make the Most High a liar. And then it also lets us know that that land was destroyed of them. They were all riddled away. And the Israelites were there, which makes perfect sense as to why she's in that land. Because she's an Israelite, as well as the other Israelites that are there.
So let me actually respond to that, because this is a fundamental mistake that you're making in exegesis. So are you aware that the book of Judges takes place after Deuteronomy chapter 2, and we indeed see Moabites in that chapter? Were you aware of that fact? Are you also aware of the fact that the book of Ruth takes place during the time of the Judges, which means that it would have been contemporaneous of the time when the Moabites would have existed during the time of the Judges? So are you aware of that fact? Let me actually quote this to you. In fact, I'm going to pull it up on my screen, because this is where I can tell when someone has or has not read this Bible. You can immediately tell who's making good arguments and bad arguments based on their understanding of what they're reading. So when we look at the book of Judges, we're going to note that there were the people of Moab there, and they had actually subdued the people of Israel. Now, this is the book of Judges, and I'm going to actually scroll down. If you give me a moment. Actually, hold on a second. Yeah, actually, scroll down. Actually, hold on a second. Forgot to do this. Hold on. Forgot to do this real quick. All right, there we go. Yep, there it is. Boom. That's what I wanted. All right. Going to look at it, and we're going to look at verse 12 in chapter 3. See, this is why it is important to know what we're reading. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord strengthened Eglon, king of Moab, against Israel, because they had done evil in the sight of the Lord. And he gathered unto him the children of Ammon and Amalek, and went and smote Israel and possessed the city of palm trees. So the children of Israel served Eglon, the king of Moab, 18 years. And I can show you examples of Moabites after the fact, and the fact that the Lord has judgment against Moab, which would make zero sense from your presuppositional viewpoint, because if the Lord has judgments against Moab, that means you have Moabites that exist. So I think the
Okay, so I
problem
just
is,
want to say this because Eglon was a Canaanite. He was not a Moabite, and Eglon was ruled over the
so
Canaanites ruled over 5 kingdoms.
so watch this.
Okay,
So if I
that
show
right
you,
there
if I
just
show
lets
you
you know.
Moabites, hold on a second. So if I show you, so why would you have a law preventing Moabites, which you yourself mentioned? And in fact, when the people of Israel came back from the exile in the book of Ezra, they're putting away the women from Moab and Ammon, and precisely reading that scripture, using that to put them away, because the strange women were causing the men to turn away from the Lord. And it was precisely the women of Moab. Ma'am, if you're gonna make these
Yes,
arguments,
we understand. That's fine, and I'm going to make the argument because, like I said, they killed off the majority of
the
them.
majority. So then
Hold
that
on,
means
my
you do
friend.
have people of
Yes,
Moab that
sir.
existed.
So yes, and what I'm
So
saying
you do
is
have people that
we
existed,
also
and
have
with that, no, wait.
Israelites in
And
that
so
land.
to
And we
pin
also
you down,
know that the Most High established the law that says that they can't go
to
into the
pin you
kingdom.
down on
So
that
that's
point,
the
because
first
you're getting
thing
away
right
from the
there.
point.
No, you're
Did you
getting away
have
from the
women of
point.
Moab according to the book of Ezra and Nehemiah? The answer is yes.
10
So if you have women
generations.
from Moab,
What's
then
the
that
law?
opens the door
So
for
you're
Ruth to exist.
you're
So, ma'am,
that is
so that opens
circumstantial.
the door
That is
for
totally
Ruth to
circumstantial,
exist.
sir.
That opens
Why
the
did she
door
say that they were
for,
of the same? Why did she say they were of the
ma'am,
same kinsmen?
that
And why did
opens
the
the,
Most High say that they can't
ma'am,
go into the kingdom to the
ma'am,
second generation,
ma'am,
sir?
your objection can easily be
Answer
addressed with
those
Exodus.
questions.
I don't think you're even listening, because you got cut
Answer
right
them.
there, and
Well,
I
you
don't
did
think
not.
you realize that
You
you
did
cut
not cut
yourself.
me. You did not cut me because I
So
just
then
told
let's
you
do the
that
following.
the Most High contradicted him.
Ma'am, I think it's important that you hear. Listen
Okay,
to what I'm saying. Listen, please listen.
okay, so I
So
just
are you
asked you
going
a
to
question.
listen, or are you just going to try to interrupt because you don't have an answer?
No,
So
please,
you have
ask the
women
question.
of Moab. You had women of Moab that existed during the time of the judges, and you had women of Moab that were there leading the men of Israel astray. So you yourself just showed that your own argument collapses on itself. Now I can explain with Exodus 33:19, where the Lord says, I will have mercy on who I have mercy and compassion on who I have compassion. Do you understand that when he has, so watch this,
let me respond to
I'm gonna
that.
prove it with scripture
Okay,
right
can
now.
I
If you would
respond
just,
to you real
if you
quick?
would
'Cause you've been talking a
respectfully,
whole lot.
ma'am, we both can't talk at the same time. I'm gonna prove it with
again.
scripture.
Okay,
Do you
sir.
realize that in the book of Joshua, he called for the Israelites to exterminate all the Canaanites, and yet Rahab, because of her faith, was spared? Now, were the people of Israel doing wickedness by sparing Rahab, even though she went out of her way to turn against her own people to save those spies, which in turn allowed for the Israelites to take the city? What was her only thing? She not only recognized the God of Israel as being the God of heaven and earth, and that he was with the people of Israel, but more importantly, she said, since I showed you kindness, show me kindness as well. And they did. And not only did they spare her, they spared her family, because that was her request. She's counted in the matriarchs of faith in the book of Hebrews. She's also counted in James 2 as being exemplary of how faith without works is dead, because through her works, she manifested her faith in the God of Israel, even though she wasn't an Israelite. So when God had mercy on who he had mercy, he could have very well have commanded them and saying, do not take her oath as an honor. Kill her as I commanded you with all the people. The thing is that when you read this Bible, you omit the weightier matters of the law, as Christ Jesus himself said in Matthew 23.
Okay,
which is
so
justice.
can I get ready to talk? Because like the guy said,
I'm gonna put you in the back for a moment, and you're gonna listen. You're omitting the weightier matters of the law: justice, mercy, and faith. Because you have no mercy. If you continue down that pathway, Natalie, you won't be shown mercy by the Most High, and you can expect his judgment to come upon you.
And you know what, my brother, like I was saying. So let me go ahead and continue on with.
We're gonna take turns, and everybody gonna get a turn to speak.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with my turn. Thank you so much for that. And hallelujah, amen with you too, brother. So let's go ahead and continue on. Like I
Lord's
said,
not with you. Go ahead.
Oh, well, that is your opinion.
Come on.
So anyway,
now go ahead. I'm listening. I'm messing with her. Go ahead, Naftali. I'm listening.
And I don't know what Lord you worship. Maybe it's Baal, but
I worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God that you don't worship. Go ahead.
Come on, let's get back at it, y'all. I know it's just the debate.
Hey, I'm not even upset because the brother that muted me kicked me out. That's all right. Let's keep going. So let's say, no, I didn't say all the Moabites were buried.
That
I
is
said
what you said,
it was a
actually.
remnant,
People can go back and hear your argument. That is exactly what
and
you
they
said.
should. I said they got down to a remnant, which was a small.
You never said anything about a remnant. He says they were all killed. There were no Moabites left in the land. You said there were no Moabites left in the land. So you're contradicting yourself now. Now you're just being disingenuous. Now you're just being completely disingenuous.
Didn't he mute me and kick me out like 3 times?
You literally said all the no. But I'm not gonna let you misrepresent anything that you said. You literally said all the people. Hold on a second, bro.
Because he keeps cutting me off, then he kicked me out.
No. Hold on a second. What we're not gonna do is allow for you to misrepresent. Just like me. If I say something that's wrong, you can hold my feet to the fire as well.
That's wrong. I just told you. You just told me to be quiet while you're talking. Meanwhile, you're still talking. While
you said all the people of Moab were killed, including the women, and now you're contradicting yourself when you realize you were wrong.
But you said the Most High is a contradiction. So let's.
No, I'm saying your viewpoint is contradicting the scriptures. Your viewpoint. Your initial argument was contradicting the scriptures, and now you recalibrated.
Am I going to get a time to talk, or should I just go ahead and kick myself out again, like you just?
So are you gonna flee like the wicked do in Proverbs 28:1? Is that what you want to do?
The only thing that's going to happen is you're going to just kick me off because I'm
not going to kick you off. I'm going to make sure that
you kick me off.
So twice? I think we need to do a timer again because I don't think she has the decorum to be able to handle herself.
Handle myself. You keep interrupting me. I'm still talking.
All right, that's why we're going to put a timer.
Your own time, so y'all don't interrupt each other.
Giving me my time. You're still talking.
So, Bubby, if you're there, definitely put 3 minutes on the clock for this. And
not Tali, if you need more than 2 or 3 minutes, just ask. We'll give it to you.
You see, he's still talking while I'm talking, right?
Ma'am, we're trying to organize the time so you can speak.
Sir, please be quiet.
Hold on a second. Bubby, are you there?
Yes, brother, I'm here.
Yeah, can you go ahead and put 3 minutes up for this fine young woman?
Sure.
Thank you.
Is that enough for you, Naphtali? 3, or you want what, 4?
I want you guys to give me just a second right here while I prepare my notes for you real quick.
All right.
Because I'm going to make sure that we understand me clearly tonight as to what I have to say about Ruth, because Ruth was not a Moabitess. It said Moabitess. It didn't say she was a Moabite anyway. She just lived in the land like Judas Iscariot.
She was the women of Moab. That means she's a Moabitess, literally.
No, because that's okay. Let me just get because we know what the law state, and we're going to go with the law because I follow the Most High's law, statutes, and commandments because that's what He says to do, to follow His laws. So let's see here.
You definitely don't.
All right, Deuteronomy. Just a second, guys, please. Thank you.
And after you're done, I'm going to give a counterweight to show that you don't know what you're talking about.
Come on, faithful dang, man. I know you want disagree, but get us a second.
The topic is a boo, but I'm putting faithful in there, a boo and faithful, and where they fit in the community.
The pain the pain that you got for yourself right now. Pain in the butt.
Baby, I am actually in a good mood. This is my element. That's why Garfield brought me on here because I love a good debate. I do.
Yeah. I don't think you love a good argument because
I do, and I'm a very argumentative person. I love it. And
don't say that. Don't say that, sis. That ain't.
That's funny.
That's my strong suit. That's my strong suit, y'all.
But let's give her a chance to speak respectfully.
What's your name, brother?
Wait, Bubby, can we get the 3 minutes so we can let her start?
Your name? I'm not ready yet. What's your name, Bodie?
Bubby.
What?
Wait, so Naphtali, can you please get ready so we can actually start?
I'm getting ready, but while I'm getting ready, I'm going to do some small time, some little small talk.
Some small talk. So I could do some small talk too. Then I can
His
tell my
name
little
is Bubby. He's the timekeeper.
Bubby, okay, Bubby, how are you doing? I'm Naphtali. Nice to meet you.
I'm doing well.
Good. It's late. Where are you guys from? Where are you guys at? Is it like California or something? It's like almost 2:00 in the morning. Where I'm at.
I'm in the East Coast, so yeah.
I'm on the Midwest.
You guys always up this late?
Only when Garfield and Gorilla Hebrew go at it.
And how often is that?
Not that often, but we try to have
real quick. So there's a super chat, and I wanted to read it earlier because AC had asked it, and I'm gonna address it.
Read your super chats. I'm just gathering my notes.
He or she, respectfully, because I don't know if it's a he or she, asked question to the panel: what are the commandments in Revelation 14:12? Oh, that's easy. 1 John 3:22-24, since it's the same author. So he says, and whatsoever we ask, we receive of him, because we keep his commandments and do those things that are pleasing in his sight. And this is his commandment. Let's count them. That we believe on the name of his son, Jesus Christ. That's John 6:28 and 29. And love one another as he gave us commandment. That's John 15:10-17. Same author. And he that keepeth his commandments, the ones that we just read, abideth in him, and he in him. And hereby we know that he abideth in us by the Spirit which he hath given us, which is the very thing that Paul is also talking about in Romans chapter 8, verses 1-16. So there's the answer. And by the way, if anybody tries to argue and say, well, it says only commandment, just like it says law when you read Deuteronomy 27, and yet law encompasses more than one commandment, just as commandment in this case encompasses more than just one single commandment.
Okay, so I'm ready. You can start the time, Bubby.
All right, give me just 1 second.
Oh, were you trying to present your screen? I don't
have to present my screen, no. I'm just ready.
Tyler, you getting what? 3 minutes? How much?
Let's do 3 minutes.
All right.
You ready?
Don't worry, Brother Faithful. I was just showing the verse I was being talked about.
That is fine. You're good.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go ahead.
So we know that Moabites were not allowed in the temple. If you married a Moab, your descendants would not be allowed in the temple for
Listen
the 10
good.
generations. According to Deuteronomy 23:3, an Ammonite or a Moabite shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Even to their 10th generation shall they not enter into the congregation. King David was the 3rd generation from Ruth and Boaz. If Ruth had been a Moabite, she would not have been allowed in the temple, and her descendants could not go into the temple until the 10th generation. David was the 3rd generation from Ruth and Boaz. His father was Jesse. Okay, so it also says the Bible records historical proof that the Amorites and the Moabites were pushed out of the land of Moab. So that means they were pushed out of their land. That means that does that mean that they didn't exist anymore? No, they were pushed out. So that means that they were no longer in that land. But does that mean they were no longer alive? They still were alive. A lot of them were put down to a remnant, but they were pushed out. Okay. So it says, in the days when the judges ruled in Israel, a severe famine came upon the land. So a man from Bethlehem of Judah left his home and went to live in the country of Moab, taking his wife and his 2 sons. God promised Judah that the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh comes. Genesis 49:10, meaning the scepter should not, the kingship should not go away from Judah. It shouldn't go to Moab. It can't even go to the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom. It says that it should not go away from Judah. So if he was to have married a Moabitess, then a Moabite woman, then that means that that's violating that law. What is so great about Ruth that the Most High is going to violate the law of that no one can go into the congregation, and also violate the law that no one can rule on the throne that is not of Judah? That's 2 laws there that the Most High is just going to throw away. All for what? All for Ruth? No way. Makes no sense. That is not logical. That is not factual. That is not realistic. Okay. So it says, Deuteronomy 17:5, thou shalt not in any wise set king over thee, whom the Lord thy God shall choose. One from thy brethren shall he choose, shall set over his king. That is Deuteronomy 17:5. There we have that the Most High says that it has to be one of thy brethren to be king. So that is another law that you're saying that the Most High just said, hey, it doesn't matter. We go ahead and just let them on in. Let King David on in. It doesn't matter. Even though that's now, we didn't look at, what's that, 3 or 4 laws there that the Most High would have had to break just to allow Ruth to come in. And again, what did Ruth do again? All right, let's keep it going though. And it says here, it says, and we took Deuteronomy 2:34, and we took all his cities at that time and utterly destroyed the men and the women and the little ones of every city. We left none remain. The land was now inhabited by the tribes of Reuben and Gad and Manasseh. Deuteronomy 29:8. Right there, it lets us know.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna have fun tearing this apart. All right, let me know when my time starts, Bubby, because I'm gonna present some things that I don't think she's actually even considered. All right, not yet, Bubby. Give me a second. You gotta reset the clock.
I was asking, is it also 3 minutes for you as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, start my time now.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go for it, brother.
So the following is from the Targum of Ruth. This was a Targum that was made by the Israelites of the diaspora, and they themselves, who were actually Israelites, verifiable Israelites, actually demonstrate to us that Ruth was indeed a Moabitess. The fact of the matter is that they understood Exodus 33:19, that the Lord will have mercy on who he has mercy and compassion who he has compassion. Since she wants to talk about the law, it seems that she forgot that one, because in her discompassionate argument, she seems to omit the fact that the Lord does have that. And we see examples of Rahab, for example. Remember not giving your sons or daughters to them, and yet Rahab was joined onto the people of Israel, so they weren't giving their sons and daughters to some harlot, just ordinary harlot, but a woman who had turned from her harlotry and had embraced the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because the weightier matters of the law were justice, mercy, and faith, which our friend here doesn't seem to understand. So when we look at this right here, look what it says right here. When we look at verse 8, and Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law, go return each to her mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you as he has dealt with your dead husbands, since you refused to take men after their deaths, and with me, since you have fled and supported me. Now, when we continue reading, I'm going to go down here. Verse 10, and they said to her, no, we will not return to our people and our God, but rather will return with you to your people to become proselytes. That's converts. That means they weren't of the people of Israel, because converts are proselytes. And I can prove that in a moment when I get my chance to rebuttal in the Septuagint, because the Septuagint uses the word proselytos literally in reference to proselytes, converts. In Deuteronomy 28:43, the stranger that is within thee shall rise up high and you shall come down low. Also in the stranger that is within thy camp in Deuteronomy 29 verse 11. Naomi said, turn back, my daughters. Why would you go with me? Do I still have children in my womb that they might be husbands unto you? So I'm going to skip up ahead, because I don't want to waste all my time just reading all of this. And you'll notice where it says they raised their voices and wept another time, and Ophrah kissed her mother-in-law and went on her way, but Ruth clung to her. And she said, behold, your sister-in-law has returned to her people and her gods. Go back after your sister-in-law to your people and your gods. Ruth said, do not urge me to leave you, to go back from after you, for I desire to be a proselyte. Naomi said, we are commanded to keep Sabbaths and holy days, and that we may not walk more than 2,000 cubits. Ruth said, wherever you go, I will go. Naomi said, we are commanded not to lodge with Gentiles. Ruth said, where you lodge, I will lodge. Notice that she's still saying, even though she's putting these prohibitions, which you do see in the law, she's saying this to her because once you become a proselyte, you're joined onto the people of Israel and you become one with them. Naomi said, we are commanded to keep 613 commands. Ruth said, what your people keep, I keep as if they were my people from before this. Naomi said, we are commanded not to worship foreign gods. Ruth said, your God is my God. And then she keeps going on and on and on and on. And what's important here is that she is identified as a literal Moabitess. So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned from the country of Moab. All right, is that my time?
Yep.
All right, cool. So just this last point. So it is very clear that the Israelites understood Ruth to be a Moabitess, and not this unlearned understanding that Naphtali
is it my turn now? Is it my turn now? Because your
yes,
time was up.
yes,
Okay,
ma'am. It is your
keep it
turn.
moving.
Yes, you can go, ma'am.
Okay, so go ahead and start the time, Bubby, again.
How many minutes are we doing for this response?
3 again.
3 minutes.
All right. 1 second. Let's set this up. Good. All right. And 3, 2, 1. Go for it.
So it's got Ruth 4 chapter 4, 13 through 17. It says, then the woman said to Naomi, blessed be the Lord who has left you this day without a near kinsman, and may his name be famous in Israel, and may he be to you a restorer of life, as a neighbor woman gave to him, and saying, there is a son born to Naomi. So it says of near kinsman. What does that mean? To be of near kinsman means to be be the same race. Again, you say that the Most High said that he'll save who he wants to save. He was speaking to the Israelites during that time as well. There was no Gentiles mentioned within that scripture. So, and what does that have to do with who's going to rule on the throne? If we go through everybody that ruled on the throne, we can see who all ruled on the throne, and it was always Judah. It was never any other time besides when Atalia ruled on the throne, which she was not supposed to. But other than that, there was no other time where anyone else ruled on the throne. So to even prove that point, to say that the Most High has ever said anything about anyone else sitting on the throne, even though he said in all these different scriptures that I provided, which you provided none, by the way, and following the law, which you keep trying to say is done away with, by the way, which is not. But it says here that a Moabite was not allowed in the temple. They couldn't even go inside of a temple, let alone be king over the whole entire kingdom. How do you go from not being able to go into a temple to being a king and being the person that is the ruler of the temple? That right there makes absolutely no sense. All you can say is the Most High is going to save who he wants to save. Yeah, that's true. He's going to give his mercy to who he wants. Mercy and saving someone does not have anything to do with allowing them to be king over a kingdom of a people that you just had destroyed. Let's not forget, he just destroyed the Moabites, kicked them out of their land, but then he's going to allow one woman to allow her son to be the kingdom over that land. I mean, all of this does not make any sense. Only thing you're doing is leaning to your own understanding. What we have here are scriptures that the Most High said. You're not Deuteronomy 23:3. An Ammonite or Moabite should not enter into the congregation of the Lord, even into the 10th generation. We know that he didn't even make it. King David is only the 3rd generation. So all of this stuff about what you're saying is not logical. It's not even true. It's not even done anywhere. It's not found anywhere else. And because it's not true. It's never happened. We've never seen it happen again. And like I said, again, leaning into your own understanding. She was not a Moabitess. And like I said, you can't find any other woman.
Time is up.
No, it's not, because you went over. You can't find any other woman that was not an Israelite that they even married. That was accepted.
All right, your time is up. You got your one sentence out, just like I got my one sentence out. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start my time. I appreciate you for giving your time. All right. So the ineptitude of the argument that she's presenting shows me that, for example, when she makes an appeal to Ruth chapter 4, I take it was verse 3. Naphtali, I'm just asking a simple question. Verse 3, correct? Ruth 4 and 3, correct? You made that argument for kinsmen, correct? Naphtali, I'm asking you a question. Can you stop my time for a moment? I'm just asking her a question. Can you pause my time, Bubby? Thank you. Naphtali, I'm asking a question for clarification. Ruth chapter 4, verse 3, correct?
No, I didn't say Ruth chapter 4, verse 3.
What was the relevant verse?
4:13 through 17.
4:13 through 17, right? Okay, give me a second. Don't start my time yet, Bubby. I'm pulling it up on my end. All right. All right, give me a second. 13 through 17. Give me one moment.
So far, this has been the worst I've ever been treated, and Garfield was horrible.
Ma'am, can you respectfully mute your mic?
Sir.
No one ma'am, I'm going to put you in the back until I finish my time. Thank you. You can wait until I'm done with my time, and then you will get a chance to respond. Thank you, ma'am. All right. All right, give me a second. All right, so look what it says right here. And the woman said unto Naomi, blessed be the Lord, which hath not left thee this day without a kinsman.
Brother, let me start your time over again.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Since you didn't go to the first verse, you want me to just reset your time really quick?
No. Just start from there. You don't have to reset anything. Just leave my time. That's cool.
3, 2, 1.
Thank you. So in Ruth chapter 4, verse 14, she's looking at the word there, kinsman, and she says, how can this be a kinsman if the woman is a Moabite? And the whole point is that when you realize that when it talks about, and I'm going to read it, and the woman said unto Naomi, blessed be the Lord, which have not left thee this day without a kinsman, that his name be famous in Israel, right? When we look at the relevant verse, right, kinsman, we're going to look at the relevant verse, and we're going to look at that relevant word, kinsman, a kinsman redeemer. This is masculine singular. Now, if we know anything about how the Israelites trace their lineage, they trace their lineage through the father's side, correct? It is not through the mother's side. It is through the father's side. It seems that Naphtali was unaware of that fact for whatever reason. She continually arms a straw man and says that you can't have a person from Moab be sitting on the throne. You can't even have this. And then she makes an appeal to Genesis 49 that says a lawgiver from Judah. Yet when we look in the scriptures, we don't see a single person from the priesthood being from Judah. In fact, Hebrews chapter 7 says Of which tribe, he says, for our Lord sprang out of
Listen,
Judah,
Jordan.
of which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning priesthood, and the priests were the lawyers, the lawgivers. That promise was for the Messiah to come later, because the Messiah would come out of Judah, and that's where you're getting the lawgiver of the new covenant. And this is where you're getting the high priest of the new covenant. The lawgiver of the old covenant was a Levite. And it seems that our friend seems to ignore that fact. So it is important to note that she has armed a straw man, and she has ignored Exodus 33 and 19, which does not preclude a person from coming in if the Lord has mercy on them. We're not seeing a plethora of Edomites or a plethora of Moabites. We see a remnant of these people, just as you have a remnant of people in the new covenant who will believe, along with the remnant of the nations who will believe. But what she's attempting to do, because she doesn't understand the law, she doesn't understand justice, mercy, and faith, is she's attempting to arm a straw man. And she's attempting to misrepresent my position in a poor attempt to try to strengthen hers. She's ignored the fact that I have brought up scriptures. I did go to the first chapter of Ruth. I pointed out the fact that she contradicted herself when she says all the Moabites were destroyed. And then when I pointed out a very glaring hole in her argument, then she says, well, there was a remnant. So she contradicts herself. She cannot stay consistent. And this is a hallmark of the poorness in her argumentation. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to give a 3-minute response as well.
Yeah.
All right. Neftali, are you there?
Yes, I am, Bubby. Thank you for asking. I was in the back chilling.
Let me know. Are you ready to respond, or do you need time to pull scriptures?
Okay, yeah, let's. I'm ready.
All right, so I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Your time will start in approximately 3, 2, 1, and go ahead.
So we know that in Deuteronomy chapter 7 that the Most High said not to marry a Canaanite, and that they were to be utterly destroyed. Deuteronomy 7, we know in the Battle of Jericho that the Canaanites were destroyed. And we know that the Moabites married Canaanites. They actually intermarried with them. And so with that logic, they became pretty much Canaanites. And so pretty much my background is pretty strong in the Canaanites. And from according to the nations, the table of nations, and the Bible dictionary, it lists that the Native Americans, Asians, and Hispanics are Canaanites. So with that being said, is that doesn't make any sense why the Most High would want to destroy the Canaanites as well as those that mix with them, but then will allow Ruth to be her son to be within the kingdom, when we know that the Moabites married and intermarried with the Canaanites, which is something that is forbidden and is frowned upon. So with all that being said, your whole argument about the Moabites being able to be grafted in is not very logical, because we know that the Canaanites were something that were to never, he said, not to marry them. Do not give your sons and daughters over to them. And what did the Moabites do? They gave their sons and daughters over to them, to the point where that's all they married. And to the point where you don't even hear about Moabites anymore, because the Moabites pretty much became Canaanites.
Are you giving up your time?
Nope, I'm not giving up my time. I can continue on and keep talking about the Canaanites and why the Most High said that they were to be utterly destroyed, and that you're not supposed to marry them. So with that being said, anybody that's supposed to be a Canaanite or marrying with the Canaanites will be destroyed, as they were destroyed in the Battle of Jericho. And in Sodom and Gomorrah, we saw that Shechem, when he had married, he got with his daughter, with Jacob's daughter. We know that the two brothers went in there and not only destroyed Shechem, but they also destroyed everybody in the town and killing everybody in that city, all because he was Canaanite and he was dating his sister. So we know that that is a very bad thing. The uncircumcised, you're not supposed to not even date them. So with your logic and reasoning is very flawed, because the Most High doesn't like them very much. And he also said not to let them into the congregation for the 10th year. And like I said, according to the Table of Nations, dictionary.com, it says that Canaanites were Native Americans, Hispanics, Asians, and Caucasian. So, and that completes my time.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and just cut that to pieces. All right.
Great.
Bubby, you can go ahead and start my time.
All right, brother. Give me 1 second. I need to set up for you. All right. 3, 2, 1. Let's see.
Thank you. So if we make an appeal to old writers, we're going to realize that the Yorubas were also referred to as Canaanites. And I wonder how she reconciles that fact. In fact, you can read about this in Tudor Parfit's book, The Lost Tribes of Israel, The History of a Myth. Now, when he references Canaanites, he is not talking about Israelites in this case. He is talking about old writers who would identify particular groups of people as being Israelites. So Japanese, Pashtuns, Irish, etc. But also in the case of the Yoruba, you had traditions that would posit that some people believe that they may have been Jews, and others people believe that no, they weren't Jews, that they were Hamites, that these were Canaanites. And yet, according to the presuppositional viewpoint that she subscribes to, this would mean that the Yoruba are both Hamites and Semites at the same time, which cannot be the case. So it's interesting, though, however, that they were identified as Canaanites. So if she's going to make this argument, then she's going to present a conundrum if she attempts to make arguments for the Yorubas, for example. But let's get back to the point about Ruth here. Ruth is clearly identified as a Moabitess. Thus far, she's giving you conjecture. She's giving you her ignorance of the scriptures, because when she made an appeal earlier, she said all of them were destroyed. Then she realized she had made a mistake, noticed that she had to backtrack, and she had to recalibrate her position. In recalibrating her position, however, she still doesn't recognize that she leaves the door open for the very thing that she will not accept. There were indeed Moabites during the time of the judges. There were Moabites in the land of Moab. We know for a fact that there were Moabites after that time, and we see them being mentioned in the book of Judges, not just in the passage that I showed, but other passages. We also see them being mentioned during the time of Jeremiah, the prophet Jeremiah. We see that in chapter 27 and 28, and we see the prophecies against Moab being mentioned after the fact. The idea that she thinks that, well, no, these are just Canaanites, they intermix, is number one, ignoring that in antiquity, people intermarried, they intermixed with one another. This was also true of the Israelites. This is why you find Canaanites within the army of King David, and ironically enough, Moabites and Ammonites. And I've actually seen Hebrew Israelites say, well, that's an example of King David going off. The fact of the matter is that the Bible says he would have mercy on who he has mercy and compassion on who he has compassion. That's Exodus 33:19. That is literally the basis of Christ's own words, which he accused the Pharisees, which unfortunately Naphtali has taken up their plight and their spirit. When the Pharisees wanted to be exclusionary and they wanted to be unmerciful, Jesus Christ said to the Pharisees that they had omitted the weightier matters of the law, which was justice, mercy, and faith. Now, the fact of the matter is that when she attempts to argue for her position, there is literally nothing that validates her view other than her own presupposition, which she has to introduce, eisegete, into the text rather than draw from the text. So I showed you the Targum of Ruth, which was made by the Israelites, which corroborates what I am saying and fundamentally contradicts what she is saying. And all she could do is arm a straw man against my position, which again shows the weakness of her position and the strength of mine when you actually examine it. Thank you.
Brother Faithful, could you do me one favor? I just wanted to ask something really quick to clarify. Could you read out Galatians chapter 5, verse 4 for me?
Sure, I'll do that right now. Galatians 5. And you said verse 4?
Yes.
All right, give me a second. And it reads, Christ has become of no effect unto you. Whosoever you are justified by the law, ye are fallen from grace.
Continue, one more verse.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me, because you had said verse 4, and I just pulled up the verse.
My bad.
In fact, do you mind if I go ahead and read all of it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Starting at verse 5. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. Behold, I, Paul, say unto you that if ye be circumcised, Christ shall profit you nothing. For I testify again to every man that is circumcised that he is a debtor to do the whole law. Christ has become of no effect unto you. Whosoever of you are justified by the law, ye are fallen from grace. For we through the Spirit wait for the hope of righteousness by faith. And verse 6, for in Jesus Christ neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but faith with which worketh by love.
Thank you, brother. That's all I had to contribute, at least from my part.
Yeah. Let's see if we can try this one more time. Can you just stop the timer? Let's see if we can try to interact without a timer. I'm going to attempt to not interrupt Naphtali. and I would hope that she would also show me the same courtesy. So Naphtali, so can we interact with one another without interrupting each other before we get our points across? Is that cool?
That's fine. I just want to make sure I get my 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and then we can start that.
Oh no, that 4 minutes, there was no, we had already finished. So if you want your 3 minutes, you can certainly get your 3 minutes.
But you just added another scripture.
No, he asked for a scripture, and I was reading what he asked.
Yeah, that was just for the brothers, sister. But if you want your time, I think go and take it.
Yes, I want my time.
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead and give you
4 minutes and 30 seconds.
4 minutes, 30 seconds. You got it.
Thank you so much.
No.
Appreciate it.
Give her 4 minutes. 4 minutes and 30
Just let her have
4
it,
minutes.
faithful. Just let her have it, faithful.
All right, fine.
Yes, let's let her have it.
It's gonna be over with.
Thank you, 93. Thank you.
All right.
I definitely appreciate that. So, are we going to start that?
Are you ready?
You ready?
All right. 3.
Okay,
2.
so hold on. I want to share my screen. Can I share my
Oh,
screen?
Yeah. Go for it. Let me know when
You
you're
sure
ready.
can.
All right.
Just let me know when you like your time to start.
By the way, I appreciate the super chats tonight, AC. So, AC, can the topic in these interactions be under?
Look at that question in the super chat, everybody.
We're gonna continue on this topic, and then we'll get to that if time permits.
Thank everybody
Can
for
you
the
guys-
super chats.
can you guys
Thank
see my
everybody for the
screen?
super chats.
Can you see
You're
my
gonna have to stop sharing this part. Just share the portion because you have an infinite screen now.
What you can do is when you share your screen, you can hit.
Yeah, just go to the article directly.
Oh, okay. I see what I did. I apologize, guys. Give me 1 second.
You're good.
And I want to say, everybody who giving super chats, y'all gonna make Taco Tuesday a lot better for Brother Faithful. Thank y'all.
Okay, did I do it right that time?
Brother Faithful don't eat tacos, so I
In that case, don't send him nothing. He ungrateful.
listen.
Did I
This
do it
brother,
right
this
that
brother
time?
gonna have him some good old fried chicken with that. I'm gonna send them them super chats.
Hey, come on, bro.
I'm gonna have tacos. He's gonna have fried chicken.
Don't let he that shall not be named hear you saying that. Oh man, I'm gonna be a certain animal with stripes on his tail, and you gonna be something else.
You funny. All right, you ready?
Is it?
No,
shared
you're still showing the
correctly?
screen. No, just show the article. That's what I'm saying. Like whatever you're gonna show, or the Bible verse, or whatever you're gonna pull up.
Okay,
No,
let me
you
pull
don't
it
have
up
to do
now.
that. No, listen, Naphtali. Like when you open the window, just click on that part of the window that you want to read next. You don't have to show us because it's gonna show an infinite screen. Do you understand?
Click share entire screen and then go to it on your.
Yeah, just go to it. Like right when you start sharing the screen, like click on what you're gonna read.
Let me guide it through. So, are you using Chrome right now, Naphtali?
Yeah, I am using Chrome. So let me see what I can do. Let me try this again. I'm kind of tired, so let me try this again.
No. Like you're already there. No, I got this.
He gonna tell him. He gonna tell him.
Yeah, hit the share button, right? Because we're both using Chrome. Hit the share button, right? And there's going to be three options. Choose what.
Just do window.
No, hit Chrome tab. Tab,
Okay. No one's ever told me to do that.
and
Okay.
click on the tab of what you want to share, and then only that screen will be sharing.
No. Here's the problem, though. No. Listen, you're gonna confuse it. Look, the problem is that if she has those tabs open in a window, if she doesn't click on the tab when she starts sharing the screen,
Right.
that because I saw a bunch of tabs open.
Window, then just do the window one.
Let's do window.
Now, Tali,
Okay.
so you noticed that you had a bunch of tabs open, right?
Okay, is this
See,
better?
you're doing it again. You're showing your. So can you click on the tab that you want to read? No, you don't have to stop sharing. You don't have to stop sharing.
Hold on, Faithful, hold on, because.
No, hold up, brother. I got this. Hold on. Wait.
Okay.
Fall back for a second. Wait. Fall back for a second. Hold up. So now, Tali, when you share your.
We know that Judah was married to a Canaanite, right? So we know what happened to two of his sons, but guess what? One of his sons was still alive, and that's Shelah, right? So Shelah was supposed to marry Tamar, but what ended up happening? Tamar didn't marry Shelah, okay? He didn't give his son over to Tamar. What ended up happening in this relationship? He ended up meeting up with Tamar, and they ended up having sexual intercourse because she posed as a hooker, as a whore. But guess what happened? Her children with Judah was accepted because Tamar was out of the house of Shem. Was the Canaanite woman he was married to? Why wasn't Shelah accepted? Why was Perez accepted? Why was the twins accepted from the whore who was Tamar Why wasn't it accepted from this Canaanite woman? Because the Canaanite cannot get into the congregation. Only people that can get into the congregation are people that are of Israelite descent. And we found that with Moses, and we find that again with Tamar. There's two sources in the Bible, that witnesses and sources that prove to you that it does matter who the woman is, and it does matter to the Most High. You have to show me two sources where it does not, because right here we saw that Moses' own children were not even allowed to go into the congregation. Aaron's children were accepted, and we see here that that Judah was married to his wife. They were married and they had children. But guess what? The Most High was like, and he chose the children of Tamar. So please expound upon that for me and explain to me why the Most High did this. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that, guys. And thank you.
All right, so let me go ahead and cut that real quick. You wanted two sources, Exodus 33:19 and Romans 9:15. So there you have your two sources.
Okay, so okay, Exodus 2:19.
So
are we transitioning to the open?
Yeah, we're already transitioning. We said we would.
You said Exodus 2:19.
So Exodus 33:19, I will have mercy on who I have mercy and compassion on who I have compassion. Paul, ironically enough, quotes that when he says unto Moses, I will have mercy on who I have mercy and compassion on. I need you to hear the argument. So when he says, I'm going to have mercy on who I have mercy and compassion on who I have compassion, the interesting thing here is that when you continually make this kind of foolhardy appeal to the Old Testament and attempting to make straw man arguments against my position, when I very clearly and succinctly have demonstrated to you that not only was Ruth a Moabitess, which you haven't been able to bat down, what you've attempted is to arm very shoddy arguments, which have been easily shown to be shoddy. For example, you initially started off by saying that the Moabites were completely destroyed. There were no Moabites ever after the fact. And then when it was demonstrated that they were, you recalibrated and you tried to switch on the fly. People are going to watch this. This is recorded. They're going to see you contradicting yourself. Now, secondly, you ignored the Targum of Ruth, which was made by the Israelites of the diaspora. We literally have them identifying Ruth as a Moabitess. And the fact that Ruth is identified in the matriarchy of faith along with Rahab, and I think you and I both know Rahab was not an Israelite. She was a Canaanitess. If Rahab and Ruth, along with Job, non-Israelites, are in the patriarchs and matriarchs of faith in the book of Hebrews, because it was directed to the Hebrews. It's not about merely the Hebrews, because we see them talking about these people. Then it begs the question, how do you reconcile that? Also, you show something about the Canaanites. I want to ask you a question, Naftali, and this is going to show me how much you know. If we look at, for example, the DNA of these Canaanites, one, are you aware of how academia uses the term Canaanite? Are you under the assumption that when they use Canaanite, they mean Hamites? Or do you understand Canaanite as a generic term for anybody who's a Semite? Because if you say, no, it's the Hamites, then you're going to present yourself with a conundrum when you realize that academia identifies the Israelites as Canaanites. So how do you understand Canaanite? From the academic sense, the way that it's being posited in that article? Or do you think that the article is somehow foolhardily positing for Hamites? Like, what do you think when you read that?
Okay, I just want to make sure that you were finished.
Yes, can we start there and then we can move our way back to the Ruth topic again? So
no worries. I want to expound more.
So when you showed Canaanites, do you understand Canaanite as academia is positing it as Canaanite being any generic Semite, any group of Semites, whether Israelite, Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, etc., and even the Canaan, because they consider Canaanite anybody who lived in the Levant region? Or do you understand Canaanite that somehow that article is saying that these are the Hamites? Like, what do you think is happening there? What do you assume is happening there?
Okay, so I wanted to further, I'm going to answer all those questions. So first thing I want to do is talk about Moses again. So when you say you use that same, like you say,
can you actually answer the question about the DNA, which I just finished asking?
I will ask that, but you asked a lot of questions. You said a lot of things. So
that was the last thing. So I asked that directly. Can you please address that?
I would definitely address that, but let me just get this part out. I promise you, I will address it. I promise you that. So,
well, it's a simple question.
I'm not concerned about the question. I'm not going to run from it either. Okay. So I'm not concerned about it. So like you said about Moses, about the situation with Moses and with Ruth, you couldn't even speak ill of Moses. We know that I can't
Yes,
think of
in
her.
Numbers 12, we know what you're referring to. Go ahead.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
listening.
she was cursed, okay,
Yes.
for speaking ill of him. So my thing is, you couldn't even speak down upon him. So my thing is that if that was the case, then why didn't he lend that type of mercy towards Moses, but he would lend it to Ruth, who is a nobody? Like, again, I understand what you're saying, but we have to think
Because Moses
contextually.
disobeyed the Lord, and the Lord told him not to do something, and he did it. On the other
Okay.
hand, Ruth
Okay,
was
so
simply. So you asked me a
I'm
question. Was that
still, I'm not
rhetorical, or do you want me to
I'm
actually
just
address it?
responding. I wasn't done responding, sir. You told me not to cut
I
you
thought you were
off.
asking me a question.
You asked me a lot of questions and I
No,
didn't
but
cut
you
you
just asked
off.
me a question. Do you want me to respond to
Do
that
you
question or
want?
no?
No, I will. You can wait. Just as you said, we're going to
All right,
be
that's fine. Go
asking. We're
ahead.
going to
Yeah,
give
go
each
ahead.
other
Go ahead.
time.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, then. Thank you. So, like I was saying, we know that Moses was not given that concession. No one was given that concession, but Ruth, he wants to make this claim for, which is not true. She was not a Moabite. We know that didn't happen for anyone.
She was a Moabite. You
She
have yet
was
to
not.
demonstrate that she was
She
not.
was,
No,
you
she was
cutting me
actually.
again, sir. You're not following your own rules. You keep saying to me, "Are you going to
No,
be
I
able
can
to
interact with
follow
you.
your own? Are you going to be able to do that?" And it seems like you're not able to.
Okay. Do you want to
You're
just get
having a
your
hard
thoughts out? Go ahead.
time.
I'm gonna let you monologue. Go ahead.
I'm not monologuing. I'm just doing as you say we were supposed to. I'm answering. You ask questions, and I'm answering them for you.
Oh, go ahead.
As you
Go
did.
ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
thanks. So, like I was saying about the Canaan, like you asked me about the Canaanites with academia. Academia is pulling out. They know who the Canaanites are, like specifically the ones from Ham. They know who they are. They know their writing. They know their pottery. They know their way of dress. They know their names. They know their languages. They know the script. They know who they are. They know their different, like with the Amarna when they were in Egypt. They know that was what they wrote with the Proto-Sinaitic. They know what they wrote with the Hittites. They know who they are within the Hyksos. They know who they are within the Amorites, who was with the Armana tablets and the Armana letters, within their language, within their Hebrew, within all of that, within the Phoenicians. When they became Phoenicians, they know who they were. So the thing is that it's not up for debate that who the Canaanites are, because they have all this historical documentation as well as references, as well as Byblos, which is one of the most oldest cities that exists in the world. Byblos, which is a Phoenician city. They know about their like I said, they know who they are. They know who they are, and it's not up for debate that they have their DNA. They're not just going out and pulling up anyone that is Semitic. They're pulling up the Canaanites, and they're
Now,
getting their
Tali,
DNA.
the
So that's
Israelites,
to answer
the
your
Israelites
question.
are posited to be Canaanites. So by your logic, that means that you think that academia is saying that the Israelites are Hamites.
Do you
This
want me
is
to
how
respond to
this is.
that?
Wait,
Do you want me
just
to
hear me out.
respond to that or not? The
I
Israelites
will,
and
but
Canaanites.
see,
Because you mentioned that,
but
and I'm
right
going to get
now,
to that.
I asked you a very specific question, which you seem to have ignored. So I'm going to repeat myself. I said to you, do you think that academia is somehow positing your viewpoint? Because I asked you, do you think that the Canaanites spoken of there are somehow that the way academia is coming to its conclusions, that they're assuming that these Canaanites are Hamites, or do you think that they are taking these Canaanites to be just any like basically Semites? Now you said no, they're saying Hamites. The problem with your reasoning is that when we look at academia, that they posit that the Israelites are also Canaanites, correct? Are you aware of that fact, that they believe that the Israelites are Canaanites? Or were you not aware of that fact? And if you don't
You want me
believe
to
me, I
answer
can
that?
show
Do
you.
you want me
Well,
to answer
first,
that?
so it's
Because first, before
yes.
you ask that question, so let's go ahead and
The Israelites are posited to be Canaanites, correct? According to academia, correct?
First of all, according to that claim, the Israelites are not Canaanites, and I
No
do
one said that.
understand
I'm asking you according to academia. No, I'm being very specific. I didn't say do you and I believe. Listen to me.
I'm trying to answer your question.
No. I'm going to say it again because I already saw how you were about to answer. Naphtali, I'm going to say it very slowly.
Okay.
Academia, the same academia that posits that the people of Lebanon are the Canaanites is the same academia that posits that the Israelites are Canaanites. Do you believe that the Israelites are? Do you believe that when they say the Israelites are Canaanites, that they're saying that the Israelites are Hamites? Is that what you're assuming?
What they're saying? Okay, yes, I do understand that they're saying that. To answer your question, yes, I saw that they've said that. But here's where
they're
they
saying
got
that
it
the Israelites
wrong.
are Hamites. You're saying
Hold
that
on.
you've seen
They're
academia
talking
say that.
about the house of Omri. They're talking about the house of Omri, and they're talking about when the Israelites mixed themselves with the
No, they're not.
Canaanites. Yes, they are, because they're trying
No,
to say
they're
the
not.
Israelites
The way
mixed themselves out. That's what they're trying to say. How do you think it
Natali,
happened? How do you think it
Natali,
happened? How did the Israelites become Canaanites then?
Natali, do you understand what the peasant revolt thesis or theory is? Do you know what that is? Be honest, don't lie. Do you know
I
what the
don't have to
peasant revolt
lie. I
theory?
don't
Do you
have
know
to
what that
lie.
is?
No, I do not.
Okay, the peasant revolt theory is what it's one of many theories that are posited for the Israelites. So you know, academia doesn't believe there was an Exodus event, right? You do know that, right? They don't believe there was an Exodus. They don't believe that the Israelites were in Egypt, like the Bible says. They believe that the Israelites were really just an outgrowth of the people of Canaan. And Canaan, in that sense, can mean any of these various Semitic groups, Semitic speakers. It's not positing Hamites. That's not how academia is looking at this. They're positing the
Well,
peasant.
I don't know
No,
what
I'm not done. So let me
sources
explain the peasant revolt.
you're.
The
I don't know
peasant
what sources
the
you're
peasant revolt.
utilizing, but the sources that I'm
Peasant.
utilizing are positing
So
them
I'm
off of
in the middle of
Canaanites.
explaining. You don't even know what the peasant revolt theory is, and you're already interrupting. So the reason why I'm mentioning this is because it goes hand in hand with DNA and how they do DNA. They are positing that you had a group of people that were a part of Canaanite tribes that had a revolt against the Canaanites, and that they therefore became their own people, revised their history, created this basically this anachronistic theory that they. Now, I'm not saying I agree with academia. I'm simply telling you how they posit this. So you have various models, and all the models posit that the Israelites are Canaanites. So the problem that I'm seeing here is that when you make an appeal to that article, you're attempting to use academia's conclusions and coalesce it with your understanding of the Bible, which is really in essence what you're doing is misusing that very finding, because the conclusions that they're drawing are not your conclusions.
Okay, so let me go ahead and respond to what you're saying. So I'm not going to debate or argue with you about if some aspect of academia are utilizing that premise. That it's okay. But guess what? The sources that I've found is that they have particularly sourced out Canaanite, and they have gotten their DNA and they have utilized it against the people that were in that land, and they found out that their DNA matches that of the people that are residing there today, which are the modern Jews, the Arabs, and Lebanese, and whoever else is there. They're in some Africans, East Africans. They're doing DNA on them as well. And the thing is that, like I said, it's not hard to find out who the Canaanites, the original real Canaanites are, because they have so much history. They have so much historical reference. If anything, they probably have more historical reference than anyone that's in the Bible besides the Philistines, which we know are Greek. They come from the island of Crete. I mean, that's not up for
According to
debate
the Bible,
either.
the Philistines are Hamites.
Yes, it's same as
According to the Bible, the Philistines are Hamites.
and yes, and that's okay.
You said they
And
came from
they
the Isle
dug
of
up
Crete.
the Philistine cemetery, and they found out that the DNA of the Greeks matches that of the Philistines. Do you even know what the word? Do you know that the word Palestine means Philistine?
So do you realize that when they say the Philistines, they're not positing the biblical narrative of the Philistines? You
Yes,
do know
they
that, right?
are. Yes, they
No,
are.
they
That
are
is,
not. They are not.
what? Can I share
Now,
my
Tali,
screen then?
if
Can
I
share
start,
my
do you
screen?
want me to start busting out your academia's interpretation
No,
to
because
see
I
that
can bust
it's not?
out my interpretation. I don't
No,
know
what you're
what
doing is
sources you're utilizing.
you're giving
I'm
us
not
your
debating that.
listen to me.
Hold on,
You're
guys.
giving us your misunderstanding of what. Wait, hold on, bro. Hold on.
I
You're
don't have
giving
to
us
give
your.
anything.
Wait,
Let's
wait.
read it together.
I'm
You
in
want to
the.
read it with me?
You're not even listening yet. So the problem is that when you make these arguments, you're attempting to use academia and conflate their findings with what you assume are your personal views. When you, for example, you said that the
Well, let's
Philistines
share the
are.
screen and let's look at it
I
together.
know what academia has to say.
But
The
you don't know
problem
my
is that
sources.
if you, ma'am, I need you to listen. You just, so when I asked you the question, the Bible says the Philistines are Hamites, correct?
Yes.
Correct?
Capture him. Yes.
So the Philistines are Hamites. Do you believe the Greeks are Hamites?
Yes.
Okay, you believe that the Greeks, when the Bible talks about the descendants of Japheth, you're saying those people are okay. So I want to ask you
the
to.
scripture. Can you provide me the scripture
I will bust out 3 scriptures to cut you right now.
that
I'm gonna
shows that
start with.
the Greeks
I'm
are?
gonna start with the first one, and I'm gonna show an example from Josephus.
No, we don't need to use
According to
Josephus.
scripture, who is Yawan the father of? According to scripture, Yawan is the father of the Yawanites, right? So I want to ask you this
What
question,
scripture
or
is that?
in your King James, the Javanites, the Javanites. Now watch
What
this.
scripture is that?
That's in Genesis chapter 10, and you'll see verse 4, I believe 5 and 6, if I'm not mistaken. So Javan is a son of Japheth. Now, why am I bringing this up? If you look in your Bible in the Old Testament, it mentions the kingdom of the Greeks. In fact, it says you have sold the daughter of Judah to the Greeks, right? In Joel chapter 3. So go to Joel. I'm going to guide you. Joel chapter 3. And I want you to look at
Joel chapter 3, what?
And I believe verse 6.
6. And it's going to say what?
You have sold the people of Judah and Jerusalem to the Greeks. That's what your King James says, right?
It says you have sold unto the Grecians that ye might remove them from. Okay, and yes, that's fine. What does that have to do with them being?
So can you look? Do you have an interlinear in front of you? If not, I'll provide one. Do you have an interlinear?
No.
Okay. I'm gonna give you I'm gonna send you the interlinear so you can look at the Hebrew. It's gonna have the English, so you're gonna see it. You don't have to actually read the Hebrew. You're gonna see the interlinear in a moment. So this is verse 6. Okay. Oops. Click the wrong one. So this is verse 6, and I'm gonna send it in the back chat, and you're gonna see it for yourself, right? And I'm gonna share it with the audience while you look at it. All right. So this is Joel 3, and here goes the back chat. All right. And keeping in mind for the audience out there, I'm not agreeing with academia. I'm just trying to point out to her there's an inconsistency in her making appeal to those sources when academia is not positing her view. I'm just trying to point out that I don't think she realizes that. So I don't want anyone to think that I'm agreeing with academia or anything like that necessarily, or
Really quick, Brother Faithful, I just wonder, do you mind if I read one verse out really quick?
Well, real quick. So can everyone look at my screen, please? Because I want to point something out to her. Because she believes the Greeks are Hamites. So what does this say right here? The Greeks. Now, look at the relevant Hebrew there. Hayawanim, right? Which literally means the Javanites, I guess, if you were to say it in King James English. So when we click on this, what does it say right here? When we go to this, it says Yavani, descendant of Javan, right? And who is this from? Yavan. Who is Yavan when we go here? Son of Japheth, not son of Ham, son of Japheth. So now when we go back to the relevant passage, this is Joel 3 and 6. Her King James says the Greeks. The Hebrew text says essentially descendants of Javanites. So the question that I have is, Naphtali, why does the text say that these are descendants of Japheth, and yet the King James renders it as Greeks?
Do you want me to answer that right now, or are you still going?
I do.
You still going, or you want me to answer?
Yes, because you said that the Greeks are Hamites.
Okay, so let me.
Are these Greeks Hamites?
No, let me go ahead and explain that for you. So in this King James, the word Greek can be utilized as It could be a translation as Gentile. It can also be for ethnos, which is ethnic. It can also mean Greek. So in certain scriptures, the word Greek can also mean Gentile interchangeably as well. And I'm sure you're familiar with this, as well as the ethnic group, or as well as the word Greek. So when you're aware of that, I know because you're a New Testament person, so I know you know that Greek word can also mean Gentile, which is Japheth. Japheth is Gentile. Gentile is Japheth. So instead of just using the word Greek, Greek also means Gentile, as well as Japheth means Gentile. So the King James is set up that way. I don't know why they set it up that way, but that's the way they set it up. And in this instance, the word Greek in this instance is referring to Gentile because Japheth is a Gentile. Okay.
So here's the problem with your line of reasoning. Number
No,
one,
because that's true.
this is
But do you agree with that or
now
not?
I'm
But
gonna
do you agree with that or not? Is that lot?
no, I do not. So let me actually interact with you. So the problem with your reasoning, and so I can get a chance to speak because you're not going to interrupt, is that number one, what you just said is absolutely positively anachronistic. It actually shows me that you don't understand the Hebrew text. When you say Gentile in the Greek, in the Hebrew, it is goyim. The fact of the matter is that goyim is not used there. It is literally the word for a descendant of Javan. See, what you attempted to do is make recourse to the freaking English rather than making recourse to the actual text underneath the translation, in this case, the Hebrew, which you can't read. And if you could read it, you would have noticed that in the relevant passage, it is talking about descendants of Javan. So attempting to make recourse to your English in the King James, when the King James translators understood ha Yawamin to be literally the Javanites.
Okay,
the problem is that when you ignore that and you also ignore this, because I'm going to cut you two times. I'm going to
Gentile.
So my unlearned friend, when we look at Josephus, who was an actual Israelite, Josephus was an actual Israelite who actually knew Hebrew, unlike you. He identifies the descendants of the Greeks, the Greeks, pardon me, to be descendants of Javan. Let me actually show that in the Antiquities of the Jews. So I'm going to back myself up, and I'm going to show that you don't know what you're talking about. And the fact that someone in the live chat was impressed by anything you said, well, then again, this is a person who makes really bad arguments themselves, is not surprising. So here we go. When we go to Antiquities of the Jews, remember, this is from an actual Israelite. We haven't demonstrated that you're an Israelite. You have definitely not demonstrated.
Man, I'm not making up nothing.
So antiquity, yeah, but the thing is, you haven't demonstrated it. You could claim you're a green Martian. It doesn't mean that you're
my screen. Okay, because brother,
yeah, we're gonna see your screen in a moment.
Is that we know that Greek is also translated as
ma'am? Are we looking at the English or are we looking at the Hebrew? What does the Hebrew say? Okay. Does the Hebrew come up with this faulty reasoning that you have, or are we going to base our argument on the actual text underneath the translation?
Thank y'all in the
going to
super
base
chat.
your argument on. So are you basing your argument on the Hebrew, or are you basing your argument on this conjectured idea that you're drawing from the English, which that text was not originally written in? What are you drawing your conclusion on? Does it say goyim or does it say ha yawamin? What does it say in the text?
What it says goyim, but also the
no,
Bible
it doesn't say goyim. No, it does not. Look at your screen. Look at your screen.
Brother Faithful, do you want me to answer or not?
I want you to look at your screen so you can see how you're cutting yourself again.
I'm not cutting myself. I have not.
Yes, you are. Myself. Look at your screen. Look at your screen.
Okay, I'm looking.
This is Joel 3:6. Now look what it says. What is this in? Now, can you read Hebrew? Here's the Hebrew. This is the transliteration of the Hebrew. Does that say goyim or does it say ha yawamin? What does it say? Ma'am?
Okay, so all right.
What does it say? Read it for us. Does it say goyim or does it say hi yawamin? What does it say?
All right, and so let me finish.
So wait a minute. So then the term there is not Gentiles, it is Javanites, if you want to be exact. But the King James translators understood Javanites to be literally Greeks.
So this word, it says the Greeks. Where did you get Javanites with this word?
Ma'am, this was originally written in.
All right, I'm gonna stop that right there. Y'all heard enough. I originally titled this on booing the community and how certain people are viewed. It's sensitive dealing with certain things, but I'm gonna bring some other people on. Let me see, somebody else is on. Come on, Grace and Peace, come to the microphone.
Yeah, grace and peace, Brother Bareen. This is Azma Yasha Allah. Shout out to the moderators, the chat. Wow, late night show, excellent. Appreciate that, Bareen. Let me just start straight out, and and speak about the meaning of my name. The meaning of my name is your father. Okay, your
Okay.
father. Yeah, yeah. This is what this is the voice I heard when I asked to see what the name mean. So I'm not saying that I'm no one's father. Okay, I'm not saying that. Okay, but it from what I was told that it means your father. Okay, and I will play a very key role in our second Exodus. Okay, so just to throw out that out there,
Oh, you believe in a second? You believe in a second Exodus?
Yes, wholeheartedly. Yes.
Okay, and you're gonna play a key role in what way? In what way? Help everybody out.
Right. Well, in a way of deliverance. I think that's the role. Okay. I was told this when I was like 24 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, 24 years old. And I just hope that it won't take the age that Moses was. He was four score years old. That's 80 years old. Aaron was 4 score and 3 years old, 83. I just hope it won't take that long. So that's what my situation is now. When I was first told to me, again, I thought the people was the clear people. I thought that the Israelis, that this have to be something that has to be done for them. But over time, when I realized that we are the Hebrew Israelites, I said, well, okay then. So I think this deliverance will be for us. So initially I didn't know it was for us. I thought it was the Israelis, because I thought that they was God's chosen people. But again, in time it was us that needs that deliverance. Now, when I first heard this, I had to go straight to scriptures, okay, because everything had to be confirmed in scriptures, and there's not just one, but appear to be two Exoduses that have to come to pass. We're talking about the rapture, if you would, or the rapture, if you would, or the great escape. And that can be seen in the book of Revelation, where the pregnant woman, she have her child, and then she flees to the wilderness. And she will
Revelation
be
12.
yeah.
Okay.
And she will be protected for 3.5 years.
So what's your role going to be in the deliverance? What do you think your role is going to be? Can you hear me? All right, maybe he got to go out and come back in. Come on, yeah, his phone time. I don't know what phone he on. Yeah, he's going to deliver. The angel came and spoke to him and gave him that name, and we were trying to press him all week for that name, but now he's finally shared it with us. I wanted to know what role, but come on, this other brother, I want you to come on. You come to the microphone to share your thoughts and give him some time to get together.
Yeah. Well, as far as the whole discussion that Faithful had with Naphtali, Faithful was not wrong in what he was doing, because they were literally in dialectic discussion, interrogating the validity and soundness of claims and ideas. And Faithful was pressing on her to justify claims, like for example, that site that she was showing in regards to Canaanite DNA testing, all that. Faithful was not wrong. That is the consensus in academia. That
you think a lot of people are grabbing sources and just to prove a point and using the stuff wrong, or don't really understand how they're using it to promote I don't want to put words in your mouth. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. They're just citing it off the fly, but they're not. They either don't actually read it, or they're selectively reading it for the convenience. In other words, they're just using it just to make a point, but if you look closer at that source, it actually undermines their entire point. Another instance, I think she claimed that Ruth was not a Moabitess.
Yes.
But and I point this out in the live chat. If you read Ruth chapter 2, verse 2, it clearly states Ruth ha-Moabea, Ruth the Moabitess. And that right there, Moabitess, Hamoavia, that's an adjective. It's a gentilic one. In other words, it's describing her, Ruth, as a woman from this specific ethnic group of people. So she really cannot escape that. Basically, what she's proposing, that she's not a Moabitess, if that claim comes with certain entailments and expectations, and the text contradicts it, and that in fact actually falsifies her hypothesis in regards to that. And the alternative, the negation of the hypothesis that Ruth is a Moabitess, is actually verified and fits the data better. And probabilistically, it's much more simpler and has more parsimonious explanation, etc. So that serves as defeater based off of the text and the fact that it contradicts her claim. So she really has no rational justification to even assert that Ruth was not Moabitess.
Why do you think this stuff is happening?
Well, I've only been into the Hebrew Israelite discussion for a little bit, but I've been out of it for a while. But generally, a lot of the things they get is usually online, and it's from the group, from the camps, and they generally trust the camps, because one of the things that is espoused is suspicion or paranoia of outside sources, because they operate as in groups, and usually in groups are mistrustful of the outside world or groups outside of that, and view of suspicion. And it's not that much different from your general conspiracy thinking, like the vaccines and 5G and COVID and stuff like that. And that also comes in line with hermeneutics and exegesis of the text, as well as how you properly pronunciate the language, the biblical Hebrew, modern Hebrew, etc. It all comes from that general mistrust and suspicion by poisoning the well of those outside sources and groups. And it gives the allure that that inside group is the one with the true knowledge, or the gnosis, to be more precise. It's kind of sort of Gnosticism in that sense.
Like they got a secret history. You think some revisionist history going on here? Or it's just people that don't have a clear understanding and attempting to teach and don't know what they're talking about? You here to stop the awakening? You want to stop the awakening?
Well, let's say, for the sake of argument,
because you're familiar with Abu, right? Abu's kind of a touchy, it's touchy with him in the community, with information and things that have come out, and sometimes people don't want to get corrected. Now, clearly, I put Faithful video up there because a lot of people feel, Faithful in his attitude, even if he's right. Some people say he's right and he's wrong. Like you came on and said he was right, but just wrong in the attitude. Somebody said, hold on a minute. Now he's lying on Israelites. You talking about this brother right here? Or are you talking about the brother, his angel gave him his name? Go ahead, brother. So what are the problems? What do you see with the community that you think is kind of problematic in the way information is being shared?
See, with Hebrew Israelites or?
Yes.
Well, a lot of it is going to be confirmation bias. So they're just going to look with what's affirming their claim or their theory or hypothesis, but they are going to ignore or misrepresent or poison the well the facts that contradict their hypothesis and theory. Because it's like in science you have data and evidence, and you need to formulate hypotheses to best account for the data and evidence. The hypothesis that best conforms to the data requires the least amount of ad hoc postulations, has more explanatory scope and power and simplicity. That becomes theory. What's the community in this regards, Hebrew Israelite community, particularly in this situation, they're trying to make their hypothesis fit the data and evidence rather than let it conform to it.
Do you got like 2 or 3 examples? You've been listening, you've been in the community for a while, listening to various channels and stuff, correct?
Yeah. Just to give it one example, Deuteronomy 28:68.
Okay.
And this is going to vary from camp to camp. Not all of them hold this view, but generally, just to give an example, they'll say it's talking about transatlantic slave trade, but when you read the Hebrew, you have the verb hitmakatan. You have the verb is basically a hitpael verb. It's a verbal action that one does to oneself. In that particular verse, it is in the second person masculine plural, in reference to the Israelites, that they would offer themselves, they would sell themselves as slaves to the enemies and in Kodneh, and there is no purchaser, no buyer. That's one instance. The other is the Hebrew in the Hebrew Bible that we have today. They'll say that's Yiddish, but that's a problem because that claim comes with expectations and entailments. Because Yiddish is a language, and every language has a morphology, it has a syntax, and has a grammar. And what you see in the Hebrew Bible with the Hebrew text, that is not of a Germanic type language at all. That is more, that's a language that's more close. That's a language that's within the realm of the Northwest Semitic branch of languages. Or to quote Introduction to the Hebrew Syntax by Bruce Welke and Michael O'Connor, it's a Canaanite dialect, and Canaanite dialects have certain words and morphology, etc. That's well within what Hebrew is.
Okay, hold on a second. I want to ask you another question about that other language that some of these people are using, and if you have any knowledge of it. But hold on a second, Dante, come on the microphone. Come on the microphone, help us out, brother. What do you think?
Yeah. I was talking about the guy that just finished talking, saying he was lumping people together and lying, because he is. He can't speak on what Israelites do, and it's just as ignorant as saying, well, black people do all this stuff and then put what some do on all black people. It's just purely ignorant, and it's false, and it's a lie. And when he talks about history and confirmation bias and all that stuff, now everybody has been a witness. They started off saying we had no proof, and now they're to the point saying, yes, there were Israelites on the slave ships. The question is, why didn't they start there if they knew that was the truth? So either they're omitting history or they're just outright lying. And now that they've admitted that we were right this whole time, they need to explain how it is we came to this conclusion that there were Israelites on these ships, if we're the ones using confirmation bias, and now some of the people who were against it are now agreeing that we have been right this whole time, and they won't admit it. So I just wanted to point that out, that he is lumping everybody together. He's lying. He's misrepresenting Israel. And yeah, I just want to answer your question, Brian, since you asked me, was I talking about him? Yeah, I'm talking about him.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if you want to respond.
Yeah, I made it pretty clear. I didn't say this was of every camp. So no, I was not lumping you all together. Whether you misheard or you're deliberately misrepresenting what I actually stated, I don't know. But I made that very clear to begin with. This was not a belief of every camp. So how am I lumping it all together when I just clarified that just a moment ago?
You said Israelites believe the camps. Did you not say that?
Yes.
I said Hebrew Israelites in a general sense.
Right, lumping in a general sense, lumping.
And I made it pretty clear with the specific issue of Deuteronomy 28:68 that this is not of every camp, because not all of them think alike on this issue.
What do camps have to do with Israelites in a general sense? Not every Israelite is part of a camp or even adheres to any camp doctrine. And in fact, if you do any research, you'll find that a lot of camps adhere to traditional Christian doctrine in lots of parts. Not all of it, but lots of it.
Mm-hmm. And in regards to the discussion that most of us just watched right now, what about that?
Oh, in regards to that, she was 100% wrong in her information. However, Faithful was 100% wrong in his attitude. And I find that a lot of the times y'all want to give people passes because they say that they're Christian. And so Cherry can call people the N-word and cuss people out. But if the camps do it, that's a problem. Now, the camps can go on the corner and teach a rape doctrine, and people got a problem with that. But meanwhile, I ain't heard no Christians denouncing Ravi Zacharias for actually going out there and practicing the rape doctrine all over the world.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
You familiar with Ravi, right? You familiar with Ravi?
Unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are your thoughts? Do
Well,
we have a point? Do we have a point there?
Well, I don't know about the whole Christian community, but the circles I'm in, which is more within the progressive branch, and generally, as far as I'm aware, almost everybody I know who are friends of Christian within communities are strongly condemning of Zacharias' actions and what he has done. And I don't know what in the world Dante is talking about. Matter of fact, one particular person I know actually investigated Ravi's claim, the claims against Ravi, and verified them for a fact, and even had an investigator on his YouTube to basically give the indicators of what the warning signs about Ravi Zacharias. And so I really don't know what Dante is talking about here.
I'm talking about the hypocrisy. I'm talking about y'all can go in on the camps for teaching something, but y'all aren't going in as hard on some of the Christians who are actually going out there and practicing some of this stuff and doing some of this stuff to people. Let me ask you this. Is Ravi Zacharias, I know you don't have a hell in a hell to put nobody in, but do you believe Ravi Zacharias is just going to get off scot clean and make it into the kingdom after all his actions and after the church tried to hide the fact that he was doing it, and they tried to make the women look like liars and ruin those women's reputations, even though they were telling the truth? Is Ravi Zacharias still considered a Christian that made a mistake, or is he completely considered, hey, that's not a Christian?
I wouldn't classify him as a Christian. I'd classify him as a charlatan.
Okay, I can respect that.
That was all right. All right, y'all have heard that. Hold on a second. Benya, you want to come on here and you want to share something with this brother? You want to ask him a question, or you wanted to speak on the whole thing with Abu and how he fits in the community, or what you heard with Faithful sharing with the sister? Do anybody know that sister?
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother. You got
absolutely. First of all, he classified all Israelites as camps. All Israelites don't identify as being a camp. And I guess you would know that if you was really studied under what Israelites believe. So what Dante said was 100% correct as far as him lumping everybody together. Now, I wanted to ask him some concerning Deuteronomy 28 and 68.
Go ahead,
First
please.
of all, I want to ask him, what is your thoughts on the validity of the Septuagint?
It's a Greek translation that was commissioned for Greek-speaking Jews or Gentiles that were interested in Judaism during the time.
All right, great. So do you know the Septuagint translates Deuteronomy 28 and 68 in the same manner as the KJV? Now that's it's a Greek translation. You already explained that, so don't try to bring Hebrew. So I want to ask you, so if the Septuagint translates Deuteronomy 28 and 68 in the same manner as the KJV, let me read it for you real quick. I'm going to read it. It says in Deuteronomy 28 and 68, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Now, the question I have to ask you is, that's redundant for one to say that they would be sold and then turn around and say that no one would buy them, right? Or they would sell themselves and no one would buy them. That's redundant. All right.
How?
Obviously, someone was sold. And there's confirmation scriptures all throughout the Bible speaking of Judah being sold to the Grecians. All right. And if you're familiar with Hebrew customs and understand the scripture, you also understand that bayou is another form of redemption. When a Hebrew or an Israelite was sold unto their enemies, their family members or close relatives would be able to redeem or buy them back out of their servitude. So why are you trying to claim that Deuteronomy 28 and 68 cannot mean the transatlantic slave trade, or that it's some type of confirmation bias, when that's exactly what it means, that they would be sold unto their enemies?
Because that's not what the text support. Just to be clear, where are you getting this word redeem from anywhere in that text?
I'm getting the word redeem from the fact that Israelites would be able to redeem their family members or buy them out of servitude.
Well,
the word redeem and buy is the same thing within the scriptures.
no, it's not.
Show me.
Redeem comes from Gaal. It doesn't come from Kana. Kana
We're
means to
talking about the
purchase.
Septuagint. We're talking about the Septuagint.
And what does the Septuagint say?
And I just read the Septuagint to you. I wasn't reading the KJV.
In English, you read the
Septuagint.
translation of the Septuagint.
But that's Greek. That's Greek.
I thought that was English.
The Septuagint.
Oh, yes, correct. Yes.
Hey, Brian, you mind if I respond to the lie on the screen after they done?
Oh, no. Yeah, I want everybody to touch this right here. That's why I pulled it up. I'm going to leave that right there. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother. Keep saying what you were saying about.
So
go ahead.
Yeah, so the Septuagint, that's a Greek translation.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you coming from with the Hebrew meaning of buy? And
because that's Old Testament. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. Let him go here. Go ahead.
What came first, the Greek or the Hebrew?
The Hebrew, of course.
So then, why are you appealing to a Greek text? Why are you appealing
because
to
you just testified to the validity of the Septuagint.
You think think the translation is better in the Septuagint, in the Greek that came later, you're saying, of Deuteronomy, to give a clearer understanding?
Yeah, it does. It does. In certain verses, it does give a better understanding.
How?
Because here's the thing: you have people go to a different translation, like the ESV, and say, "Oh, it didn't say they would be sold to the enemy. It said that they would sell themselves," right? But the Septuagint, which was translated out of the earlier scrolls, speaks of them being sold. All right, and that's why the Septuagint is more valid than anything else, because it is translated out of the earlier scrolls.
Well, if that is the case, then why does it use a reflexive intensive verb form rather than the passive form? Because for what you just stated to be true, it would have to conform to the Hebrew of it being a nifal verb, basically a passive verb that they would be sold. But that is not what you see at all in Hebrew text in either Masoretic or in even the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is the earliest. You see a reflexive intensive, the hitpael, and that's a verbal action that one does to themselves.
I would like to see you break. I would like to see you break the whole thing down. Break that whole thing down.
Just give me a second.
But you're not going to Septuagint. I would like to see the comparison.
I would like to see the comparison between the two to see. I don't want to just hear you break it down. I want to see the comparison. I want to see you pull up the Hebrew from the Septuagint translation.
You on a desktop, brother? You could share your screen if you want. If you need a couple of, go ahead,
I'm on my phone, so unfortunately I can't. As far as the Greek, I can't actually read it, so you have to forgive me for that one. But I'm actually looking at the Hebrew right here of that specific verse. והשיבך יהוה מצרים והאוניות בדרך אשר אמרתי לך לא תוסיף עוד לראותה והתמכרתם שם לאויביך לעבדים ולשפחות ואין קודמה.
All right, so nobody here speaks fluent Hebrew. All right, so this is why I asked to see you break it down. All right, because I'm reading the Septuagint. All right, and what you're doing is you're coming along and you're telling me that what I'm reading is not saying what I'm seeing is saying in the translation. So what I want to see.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What I want to see you do is have a comparison between the Septuagint and whatever Hebrew that you or Yiddish that you claim you are breaking it down in. That's what I want to see. Now, if you can't do that, then just say you can't do it.
You want to parse out that 68th verse in Hebrew?
Yeah, exactly. Just that 168 verse, that one. With the comparison, because there's all kinds of tools you can bring up to look into the definition of these words. Right, I can pull up my eastward and I can break that down either in the Brown Drivers Briggs lexico, or I can break it down in the Strongs. So if he's sitting here, he's telling us this, I want to see him break it down. I want to see that, because I've read that for years, and I've even had conversations with Alton concerning him trying to say that the ESV says they would sell themselves. We're reading it in the English, and it said they will be sold. But people want to try to come in here and split heads and try to act like because you don't know the Hebrew, they can pull the wool over your eyes and say, oh, no, it's not saying they will be sold.
No, they will be sold and no man shall buy them. That's the part a lot of people got beef with.
Okay. Well, here's what's conducive to what we read in the scripture. Okay. And I'm going to ask this question again. When the Hebrew or an Israelite was sold or sold themselves unto to anybody, whether it's their enemy or not, were they able to be bought back from their servitude? That's the question. And the answer is yes. The scriptures testify that they could be brought back from their servitude.
All right. Come on, Dante, read that screen and start with that right there. Oh, he came back. I thought he jumped off. Right. I said he might have jumped off, but hold on, he's in the back. I'm gonna bring it back on. But all Israelites get their core doctrines from the camp. Listen, everybody in here. Dante going to start off with everybody in here. All Israelites get their core doctrines from the camp. That's a fact. Who invented the claim that Deuteronomy 28:68 refers to the transatlantic slave trade? It came from the camps. Come on, Dante.
Actually, now this is deception right here. I want everybody to see that this is what deception is. All Israelites did not get their core doctrine from the camps. And anybody that actually knows anything about Israelites, somebody that's not trying to push a narrative or deception, they know that the majority of Christian Israelites, or majority of Israelites in general, came out of the church. Now, some had church hurt. A lot of people say they had church hurt. Some did not. I didn't have any church hurt. I just didn't like the fact that we weren't being given all the information. We were giving bits and pieces and partial information because in many churches, they say, well, this is not important. We don't need to know this. And I find it odd that people who say they believe in the Bible will tell you parts of the Bible aren't important. If the whole Bible is God's word and God is not a dummy, then every single word that appears in that book is there for a reason, which means every single word that appears in that book, we should be looking into, researching, trying to understand. So that right there is just a lie. The core doctrines don't come from the camps, and it's not a fact. The camps didn't invent the claim that Deuteronomy 28:68 refers to the transatlantic slave trade. In fact, that's just the exclamation point on all of Deuteronomy 28. And I find that there's a lot of dishonesty about what's going on in Deuteronomy because people want to push a narrative. If you read through Deuteronomy 28 all the way through the whole book and compare the curses one by one and compare them to the history of the transatlantic slave trade, you either have to be a liar or in denial to say that things don't match, because they absolutely do match. But the point of Deuteronomy 28 is it's a covenant that's laid forth. It says, if you do this, then this is what I will do. If you don't do this, then this is what I will do. When you get to Deuteronomy 29, you see them accepting not just Israel, but the people there that are there with Israel that day. They accept the terms and conditions of the covenant in Deuteronomy 28. When you get to Deuteronomy 30, Moses expresses his concern that they will not go along with the agreement that they just made, and that in the latter days, let me say that again, the latter days, evil will befall them. And so when we get to that term latter days, we have to define it. And we will find that in order for people to wiggle their way out of what is completely obvious by the terms and conditions of Deuteronomy 28, they will say that there are multiple latter days. And then that leads to all kind of confusion. They don't want to give dates, times, locations, people, or none of that. But this stuff didn't originate with the camps. This stuff originated long before the camps. Now, I do have to go, but I do want to tell everybody that I do have a study coming out. You guys showed that thing with vocab asking who was the king that went into slavery during the transatlantic slave trade.
Yeah, faithful.
I got the answer. I got a video coming out on that, and there is evidence. There are pictures, and there's history talking about the king that was king over Judah on the west coast of Africa when they went into slavery. Even him selling some of his wives into slavery to fulfill quotas when he couldn't meet the quotas with other people.
And
so
he came on the boat. He came on the slave ships.
There's some references to the fact that he was taken eventually when I think it was the kingdom of Dahomey came down and they invaded and took over Judah. Because you'll see that if I actually have the maps on blackhistoryinthebible.com ordered by year, and you will see that the kingdom of Judah is on the map until they get invaded by Dahomey, and then Dahomey replaces the kingdom of Judah. And then later on, it becomes the kingdom of Benin. But there is tons of history around what was going on in the kingdom of Judah. And that snake worship thing that people think they're so clever and saying, well, if that was Judah, why did they worship snakes?
Yes.
Well, if we go back into the Bible, we will see that Nehushtan, they call that snake that Moses made, Nehushtan, and they started to worship it, and it had to be destroyed. So snake worship was in Israel's past. And Israel was already punished for falling into idolatry. And so Israel falling into idolatry or Judah falling into idolatry or snake worship isn't even a problem when it comes to history. But yeah, I got that history coming.
That snake's connected with Numbers, the serpent when Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness with Numbers?
Not necessarily the one that they were worshiping in the kingdom of Judah. I'm just pointing out that it had happened in the Bible where they did proceed to worship a serpent. And so some people point out that in Judah, they were worshiping serpents. So how could they be Israel? But we know that Israel's problem all throughout the Bible is that they chased after other gods and they started to worship creatures and idols and everything else. So them not adhering to the ways of the Most High, it makes sense that they would be taken into slavery from there, even though they were worshiping a serpent.
Oh, got you. All right. Yeah, we got to do this week or whenever you drop it, we're going to play that. We're going to definitely pull that up. All right. You want to hold on? Oh, no, you said you had to go?
No, I'm getting over here.
All right, bro. All right, man. Appreciate it. All right. But where does it come from? Where does it come from? Come on, brother. You're going to come back to the microphone, but I'm asking everybody else who started using that. Did Cherry use that? Did Crowdy use that? Was it around back with Nat Turner in them? Who first preached that? Deuteronomy 68, that mean America, the early slave, the early preacher slaves, Prince Hall, who started teaching that back in the days? Or it just came on the scene like with One West in 69. Who started teaching that? That's what we're trying to get to. But go ahead. You want to finish with that 68 and how that thing is misused?
Well, yeah, Berean, if I could just touch that point, the brother was correct that when land is sold, okay, it could be land, it could be slaves, or even a wife, okay, a kinsman redeemer can purchase those possessions back. Okay, so he is correct to where, if something is lost, a kinsman redeemer can redeem land, slaves, and also a wife.
But this is my thing. So you're telling me Deuteronomy. So you're telling me that 68 verse fits point for point the African transatlantic or slave trade. You're telling me that you read that with your two good eyes in English, and that's identical to the transatlantic slave trade.
Well, just to the point to where, again, I think Luke 21:24. And Deuteronomy 28:68, those situations are similar. Okay, but when the brother said that no one shall you shall be sold, that's something to where has been completed where you were sold. Okay, which means you are sold, but no man shall buy you which means that no one would be able to redeem you. It would have to be the Lord who can redeem you. Now, since the Lord have died, his next of kin, okay, will be able to redeem land, wife, and slaves. And so this is what we're waiting to happen in the end times for the kinsman redeemer. And again, once we look at the line of the tribe of Judah, this is why he's very important. So we will be redeemed. We will get our land back and our people back, and we shall be restored as of a nation. Okay, but the brother who the guy who was talking in Hebrew. Okay, what type of Hebrew are you speaking? Is that ancient Hebrew or modern Hebrew?
It's ancient Hebrew.
Really? Okay, so how do you pronounce peace in the ancient Hebrew tongue?
Shalom.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
so are you saying that there was vowels in the ancient Hebrew language, vowels?
Yes, because Hebrew goes through, like every language goes through, changing orthography, and the added vowel with the vav in between the lamed and the final mem, the mem sulfit, that's a matre lectiones. It's a mother of all rings. It's an added vowel too. So yeah.
Right. So who? Right. See, the vowels came from the Greeks. Okay, and the ancient Hebrew language was before the Greeks. So how do you place the vowels in the ancient Hebrew characters?
Sorry, say that again.
The Greeks put the vowels in the Hebrew language, you saying?
Yes. Well,
where you get this from?
The Israelis.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
Listen,
where some of this stuff is so
listen.
foreign to me.
Yes. Listen, the Israelis, those who claim to be Jews, okay, they took the vowels. It's called the Nikdu vowel system. And they use these vowels and place them all over the ancient Hebrew characters to change the pronunciation of the words. To way to pronounce peace. Listen, 1 second.
Oh,
The way to pronounce peace in the ancient Hebrew is shalom. Shalom.
That's the La Kodesh you giving me?
I'm sorry?
It is.
Father God, in the name of
No, hold
every time
no,
I go
so, but the point is this. I mean, the point is this. Who are the real Jews?
That ain't none of them. Hey, hold on a minute. So you, where did La Kodesh language come from?
Well, that's the ancient Hebrew. That's the ancient Hebrew language without the vowels that was placed by those who claim to be Jews. They took the vowels and sprinkled them all over the ancient Hebrew words to change the pronunciation of the words.
Okay. Azamal, is that your name?
Azamal, yes.
Azamal. I'm sorry, but that statement is begging the question. It's assuming a conclusion to be true, but you're not really showing how and why it is the case. So that's not really a valid argument.
Well, you're not showing it. Well, you're not showing it either. Okay, you're telling me that this is how it is. That you're speaking the ancient Hebrew language, and you're not. Your language is your language is a mixture. Is Yiddish. It's not 100% ancient Hebrew.
Sir, just a quick question. Do you know what the word God is in Yiddish?
God?
Elohim. No. In Yiddish, it's Got. Not Elohim. Elohim.
Okay. Wait, hold on.
Elohim is the masculine plural noun. The root is Eloha, the singular, and that is in other Northwest Semitic languages. You see in Ugaritic, it's Ilu, and it's also the same in Akkadian. This is really within the branch of Northwest Semitic languages, and it fits perfectly well within that. Now, whether you pronounce it as a sort of like modern and biblical Hebrew as tested in the text, or you pronounce it in the more stricter ancient form, Elohim, it doesn't matter because that's not Yiddish.
No. No, hold on, hold on.
Yeah. No.
No. You asked me a question.
Let him
No,
let him finish. Let him finish. I want to hear this because I'm really concerned with that shalom and where that come from. Did that come on the scene in 1969? They were talking that back in the days. They were talking that 150 years ago.
Well, yes.
Do we got evidence that people were saying shalom, using that and saying that this was the language, or did this language come on the scene with One West?
No, this language.
And that brother said God, the angel gave it to him. You angel people, you folk. Go ahead.
No, hold on. Because the guy asked me a question. How do I say God and the modern Hebrew or the ancient Hebrew?
Which Hebrew you speak? Let's start right there. Which Hebrew you speak?
No. I asked the guy. Okay.
No, but I'm asking you, which Hebrew do you speak?
Well, I use the tongue and the pronunciation of the ancient Hebrew without the vowels. Okay.
Let's hear some of that. Let's hear. Give us a sentence or two. Read Deuteronomy.
No. Look. Breen, I don't speak fluent.
This ain't your thing. He's speaking the language. He's freestyling the language.
So what does that mean? He's speaking modern Hebrew. It's not the ancient Hebrew. It doesn't mean. I mean, I don't care how many plaques he have on the wall. Okay, I don't care how many certificates he may have. Okay, my point is he said that he speaks the ancient Hebrew. And you don't speak the ancient Hebrew. It's a modern Hebrew. Okay, so you ask me, how do I pronounce God, okay, in the ancient Hebrew? Okay, and, I mean, from what you pronounced it, you don't pronounce it that way. Okay, God in the ancient Hebrew is Allah. That's the singular tense. And
God in ancient Hebrew is what?
And Allah. That's El. E-L. Hear me. Listen. Listen to me. Is El. El represents God. El. And the way you pronounce it, according to E, which is supposed to be A, is Ah. And the L is pronounced as La. Okay, this is pronunciation of the letters of the ancient Hebrew alphabet. Allah. Okay, that's in the singular term, but in the plural term is Allahayim. But when you put vowels, you pronounce it Elohim. You see, they place these vowels all over the Hebrew characters and change the pronunciation of the words. That's what they did.
Do me a favor. Let me hear the Hebrew language right now. Run through the Hebrew ABCs.
Who me?
You. Run through the Hebrew ABCs.
Well, it is Ah, La, Ba, Da. I would again look, Bahrain. I don't speak it fluently. Okay, you're not gonna get me. You're not gonna get me to speak it fluently. Our language shall be given back to us once we get restored. Once we get restored as of a nation, our language and our land and our culture and customs shall be returned back unto us. Okay, these guys, they are well established here in this world system, so I don't blame them. They should have everything because they control everything. So you're not going to impress me with how well he speaks modern Hebrew, which is Yiddish. Okay, I cannot be impressed with that. Okay, but for him to say that he speaks the ancient Hebrew language, okay, that's not true. Because you use your vowels, the Nikdu vowel system, okay, and those vowels came by the Greeks, okay, and you place all those vowels. You place all those vowels. If you check the modern Hebrew, okay, find the video. You will see that they place all their vowels, the Nikdu vowel system, and changed all the pronunciation of the Hebrew letters, and you will see what they did.
Okay, hold on a second. Go ahead. No, go ahead. What do you hear? Listen, you can tell the truth on this channel. What do you hear? From what you heard, how do you feel?
Well, I just have to ask. I have a very particular question in regards to this gentleman's claim. How do you tell How do you tell the difference with your dialect, sir, between my son and sons of in your dialect in Hebrew?
Well, look,
Because
again, listen to me.
no,
No,
wait, because listen, in your dialect, you're just going strictly by consonants and injecting all A-class vowels. So my son would be Banaya, and sons of would be Banaya. How do you distinguish between a noun in the masculine plural construct and a noun with a first person singular possessive suffix?
look, okay.
Do you even know
You-
what he's talking about?
Look, listen, okay. You're not going to, okay, throw at me, okay, your clear understanding of the modern Hebrew. Okay, again, like I have already stated, okay, our language shall be given back unto us, in which we don't have it right now. Okay, but you just need to confess and agree that you do not speak the ancient Hebrew. It's modern Hebrew. That's all you have to say.
Do you even know
That's all
what
you have to
modern
say.
Hebrew, sir? Do
Okay,
you, sir,
you speak.
sir,
Listen to me.
sir?
That's all
No,
you
no,
have to
no,
say.
no, no.
Okay,
You
Because
just,
we
you
can't
sir,
learn
sir,
like
sir.
this. We can't learn living in this. This is not right. This ain't good right here.
no,
This
but
ain't
look,
good right here, Israel. This ain't good for the community right here.
yes, it is good.
How is it
Yes,
look
it is.
good?
Yes, it is good, because he said. I mean, if there is no way that any Jewish person would say that they speak the ancient Hebrew language. They don't speak the ancient Hebrew language. It's modern Hebrew. It's a mixture of Hebrew and Yiddish. That's what it is. So
I'm
How?
you
sorry,
can't.
Berea.
So
Can I
you
You're
say
cannot
begging the
something?
tell me.
question.
You do your research. You cannot tell me that
No,
you
no,
are
no, no,
pronouncing.
no.
You
What you're doing
cannot
right now?
tell me
No,
that you are pronouncing the ancient Hebrew tongue.
no,
You
dude.
can't say that.
What you just did right now was literally shift the burden of proof. You just made the statement that modern Hebrew is Yiddish. You are making a declarative claim. You, by definition, bear the burden of responsibility of justifying how and why that is the case.
If
All
you
right,
think
but
it's Yiddish,
can I say something?
If you think it's Yiddish and German mixed together, come on, Ben. You come on. What you want to
All right,
say on that?
so this is the reason why I asked him to pull up something that I could see him do this translation with of the Septuagint in Deuteronomy 28 and 68, because I don't speak Hebrew.
You don't.
All right.
Oh, but you speak Greek.
I speak English, and I
So
don't.
why you want the Septuagint? Then? I'm
Because
a little
the Septuagint is written in English.
The
It's written in
Septuagint is a
English.
translation.
It's a translation, but I can also look into the Septuagint definitions. I can look it up, and it'll plainly explain to me what each word means.
What do you think about that La Kodesh language, that Shalom and all that stuff? You think people was talking 100 years ago?
I don't know. I haven't studied that enough to say. I don't speak it either, though.
Okay.
So because I haven't studied it and I don't speak it, I don't knock it, but I don't support it either.
Okay, got you.
But like I was saying, that's why I wanted him to bring the up a screen so I can see him translate Deuteronomy 68 and 28 from what it's saying in the Septuagint to whatever it's saying in the Hebrew, so I could see that. Now, the reason why I say that, because it's just another move of the goalposts. When everybody open up their book and they read the English Bible, you read in English, but now people are telling us that what we're reading in English is not correct now, and it's just another move for the goalposts. Israelites have been put to the highest point of scrutiny. And nobody's scrutinizing anybody else versus that. Like, if what I want to see is, I want to see in those who profess to be an Israelite and those who profess that we're not Israelites, to prove their case, and then Israelites prove theirs, opposed to Israelites consistently being bombarded with this notion that we're having confirmation bias, or that we're having cognitive dissonance in our understanding when we're reading in English. It's really insulting, because like, okay, you're reading the English Bible now because you're coming up with this, you don't understand English. And I was like, okay, I don't understand English because what? Because it says this in the Hebrew. That doesn't make any sense. You know, so when you read the Bible and you're seeing that they will be sold unto the enemies, what conclusion are you going to come to as an English speaking person? That they were sold to the enemies, right? So it's just another move of the goalpost for you to come in for, I don't know what his name is because I don't read Arabic or whatever that is, right? For him to come in speaking, you know, Hebrew, he might as well have been speaking Chinese. It's not relevant to me. What I want to see is you show me what's being said in the English versus what it says in the Hebrew, and explain that clearly. So then if I'm incorrect in my analysis, then I can say, okay, I'm incorrect. You know? But
Okay,
you can't just come to me speaking a different language and then okay, because you speaking a different language and you know, then maybe I was wrong. You know?
Okay, go ahead. I want you to finish with that. You started off with the Deuteronomy 28:68, and you said in the language, or from you understanding it from Hebrew, it doesn't fit what they're describing as a transatlantic slave trade. Pick it up from right there.
Yeah, وهشيخ, what you have here is a prefixed consecutive woe. For those that are not familiar with the grammar, a prefixed consecutive woe attached to either, if it's a prefix to an imperfect tense verb, it's going to render it a perfect tense. If it's a perfect tense verb that's prefixed to, it's going to be an imperfect tense, i.e., it's something that is either occurring or is yet to occur. Heshivcha, you have the verb, the hifil, i.e., it means that
I think you got cut off. Y'all hear him? Type of one if he got cut off. Can y'all hear me? I ain't cut off, right? Type of one if y'all can hear me.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead now. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Where I left off, Waheshivcha, you have the prefix consecutive woe, and then you have the verb heshiv, which is a hifil verb, which means it's an action that is being caused. And you have the cha, the second person masculine singular suffix, indicates a singular masculine person. Basically, and he shall send you back, he shall return you. And then you have Yahweh, Yahweh, or Yahweh, basically God. Yahweh is the causing agent of this event occurring. And Mitzrayim, that's Hebrew for Egypt. Now there's something I need to point out here. There's a textual variant in the Samaritan Pentateuch. It has Mitz.
I don't know why you keep it got to be something on your end. It got to be something on your end. You keep cutting off. Come on, Angel Man. He cut off too. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's because I'm switching from here to my my Logos Bible app. Hold on, let me pull it up on my Kindle real quick.
I'll put the link out there for anybody want to jump on and ask any questions or got any thoughts they want to share on the subject. Go ahead.
All right, I got Waheshivcha, prefix. We already touched on that, and Yahweh and Mitzrayim. Basically, Yahweh shall send you back, or will send you back to Egypt. Ba'alniot, inseparable preposition, beit, in, at, on, or with, alniot, ships or vessels, B'derech, on the path, on the way, on the on the path, on the way. Asher, relative pronoun, who, that, which, that. Basically, Yahweh will send you back to Egypt on vessels and ships in the path that. And here's the verb of marti. That's a first person verb, singular, past tense.
The sister said, translate that in your words. The meaning should be translated, not just the word. What does that mean? What does that mean right there?
Amarti.
The whole, no, not just the word, the whole 2 sentences.
Oh, the whole passage.
The whole passage, yes.
Basically, Yahweh shall send you back to Egypt on ships, on vessels, in the path that I said to you. You shall not see it again. And you shall sell yourselves there to your enemies for male slaves and for female slaves.
You shall sell yourselves?
Yeah. Wahit makartem's a heat pael verb. It's a verbal action that one does to oneself.
Now, Israelites have done that in the past. There was slavery in the past. They had I'm asking everybody that they did sell themselves. That don't sound too good. You should sell yourselves. That don't sound too good like the Atlantic slave trade to me. To me personally, it don't sound like that, but keep going.
You shall sell yourselves there to your enemies. Enemies is, well, it has a prefix, lame preposition to, and the noun is oyev. It's basically oyev in the masculine plural construct state. Basically second person to the individual's enemies.
Why do you personally think that's a misuse of the text when they're using that and the Atlantic slave trade to prove or prophecy that's prophecy being fulfilled, that Israel or some Israelites or Israelites will be brought over here as slaves, and that's a popular passage that Israelites use. Why do you personally, from reading the language, why do you personally think it's a bad use of the text?
Well, for one, the whole setting of the text is to that generation that is about to go into the land and take it over after the 40-year journey, right before Moses dies. And he's giving this, and he's reiterating the covenant with Yahweh that Israel had made, and laid out for them the blessings for the obedience and the curses if they violated that covenant. And this is one of the curses of that covenant. But key import, all these curses and blessings take place when they're in the land of Canaan, not outside of it. So it doesn't make sense with that for starters. The timing, the audience, the context, and also it clearly states Yahweh will send them back to Egypt. That makes no sense unless it's actually to that audience it's being addressed to and is reiterated to those generations after them. And
okay, Berean. If I can ask him to what's his take on Luke 21:24, where the Messiah says that his people shall be led into captivity unto all nations. Would he happen to have an understanding of that verse, Luke 21:24?
They will be killed by the sword, and they will be killed by the sword and be led captive in all nations, and Jerusalem will be trampled by the Gentiles until the times of Gentiles are fulfilled.
Okay, yes. So because see, my stance is that the transatlantic slave trade, I see it as the fulfillment of this verse here, because where it says that they should be led into captivity unto all nations. So that's my position. So do you see the transatlantic slave trade fulfilling Luke 21:24, being led into captivity unto all nations?
No, because verse 20 clearly states, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then recognize that its desolation has come near. So he's referring to the rebellion event that occurred in 70.
No. Right. No. My point is that when the Messiah was on earth, and we know that the southern kingdom was still in Jerusalem. the southern kingdom. So he was speaking unto them and telling them that, yes, that Jerusalem shall be destroyed. But when you read the verse where it says that, and you shall be led captives unto all nations. So you don't see that as a transatlantic
hold on.
slave trade. And why not? Why not?
Well, hold on. First, what southern kingdom are you talking about? Judea was completely under Roman occupation and control.
Okay, so you don't know who represent the southern kingdom?
Are you referring to Judah, the tribe?
Well, I mean, you tell me. I mean, who is the southern kingdom?
The southern kingdom, more particularly the elites, were exiled by Babylon, and the priestlies and whatever came back later, and the majority of the people were mostly still there. That's how empires ruled. They came in, exiled the elites and rulers and military personnel, more particularly military leaders, and they left the people in the areas because just trying to exile whole peoples, that's
right.
too much of a cost.
Right. Well, yeah, you were just talking, but see, the southern kingdom represent Judah, Levi, and Benjamin. Those three tribes represent the southern kingdom. And that's who Christ was speaking to when he was on earth, saying that they shall be led captives unto all nations. Okay, so I don't see how. So do you see any race of people? And if you look at history, who were led into captivity unto all nations? Is there any people who you see here on this earth now who actually went through that, led captive unto all nations? Was it now look, I'm not being rude here, but I just want the facts. Okay, so are you a Israeli, or are you Arab, or if you don't mind?
I'm neither.
Okay, you're neither, but you speak fluent Hebrew. I mean, you don't have to. No, look. You don't have to be afraid. I mean, you could just say what it is. I mean, just say what it is. I mean, because if you are an Israeli, now look, if you got the Lord Jesus as your personal savior, He is the way. Okay, we all of mankind needs Him. Okay, so if you have Him, we are brothers. Okay, but my point is that if you are, I mean, you can keep it to yourself, but if you are an Israeli, okay, was they led into captivity unto all nations? Can they fulfill Luke 21:24?
Well, Luke 21:24 is very specific, and it's talking about Jerusalem.
Yes, it's speaking about Jerusalem. Yes, it's speaking about Jerusalem. That they didn't.
And more particularly, it's talking about the generation of 70 AD that the Romans took over.
Yes, it's speaking about when Christ spoke, he spoke of the entire event, the destruction of Jerusalem, okay, and the outcome of the people. Okay, if you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, flee to the mountains. So Christ knew what was coming. He actually wept. He actually wept because his people did not know the times. Okay, so led into captivity unto all nations. Okay, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
Keith, I'm getting ready. Let me go ahead. I'm gonna text you, Keith, right now. Go ahead.
And so further, if you further read that verse 21:24, it says that and Jerusalem shall be trodden down by the Gentiles until their times are fulfilled. So are there Gentiles in the land right now?
There's Jews and there's Palestinians and let's see what else. Oh yeah, and there's Armenians or none of the above.
I'll get it back to you soon.
All right, so those of you who you just broke down, so I guess they will be Gentiles. If we want to make Luke 24 truthful, they will have to be Gentiles, correct?
Yeah, but again, this is talking about a very specific place, time, and event, and 70 AD is the only one that matches this. What you're doing is really presupposing a dispensationalist future.
No. Well, look,
No, you don't
proved
think
my
that was a
point.
good question? What was it? He asked what other nation? That's what you asked?
Right. No, I
Man?
already proved my point. It is evident. So if you have a next question, Bahrain, we can take the next question.
Okay,
May
go.
I interject?
Yes, sir. Yes, you can.
Yeah, okay, so you got two things happening there. You got one, the prophecy of Mashiach or Christ telling those who would be in that time when Jerusalem is surrounded by the Roman armies
You're
to
talking
flee
about
into
Luke.
the mountains.
Okay, go ahead.
All right.
Yes.
And then you have the scattering of those who are taken into captivity from the 70 AD period.
Mhm.
So my question would be, did everything happen in that one instance, or was that a reoccurring
was it twofold?
situation? Yeah, was it
Okay,
reoccurring? That's what I have to ask. To what was his name?
Pronounce your name. Pronounce your name for us.
Amir.
Amir. So is it twofold, or did it just happen then?
It just happened then.
Okay, so what became of the ones that's fled into the mountains? What happened with that?
Did they go back?
They,
Where did they die out? Did they live there? Did they travel anywhere else? Did they go back afterwards?
well,
And where did
well,
they flee when they said the mountains?
Good question.
they fled. They went to the mountains. It could have been within Qumran. It could have been on the rural side. It could have been anywhere within the vicinity, or even there with the 135. I believe that was the Bar Kokhba revolt. Then they moved further north to get away from all the craziness of that. So wherever they fled, they would have stayed within the vicinity. How far, I don't know.
All right, so I'm glad you said. I just wanted to make sure. Now, this is what I want to refer back to in Deuteronomy. When you refer, so you're saying that happened in this instance, but Deuteronomy testifies to it being a reoccurring situation that would not only happen to the generation that he's speaking to then, but it would happen to other generations that would precede them if they continued in the same mindset. Now,
like Babylon later on.
Yeah, exactly. So this is in Deuteronomy chapter 29. And it says in chapter 29, if you don't mind, I'll share my screen with you.
Yeah, click it. You click it. I'm gonna put it up there. I don't see nothing.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen with you. All right, let me hide that. All right, so Deuteronomy, right here, it says in Deuteronomy 29, and I'm gonna start from 12. It says that thou shouldest enter into covenant with the Lord thy God, and into his oath which the Lord thy God maketh with thee this day, that he may establish thee today for a people unto himself, and that he may be unto thee a God, as he hath said unto thee, and as he hath sworn unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Neither with you only do I make this covenant and this oath, but with him that standeth here with us this day before the Lord our God, and also with him that is not here with us this day. Now, to continue on, so as you continue to read, you'll see the scripture describing the children later on continuing in the same stiff-neckedness or disobedience and receiving the same punishment as the fathers. All right, it says, now I'm going to skip down a couple of verses, and it says, and ye have seen their abominations in their idols, wood and stone, silver and gold, which were among them, lest there should be among you man or woman or family or tribe whose heart turneth away this day from the Lord our God, and go and serve gods of the nations, lest there should be among you a root that bear gall and wormwood. And it come to pass, when he heareth the word of this curse, that he bless himself in his heart, saying, I shall have peace, though I walk in the imagination of my heart, to add drunkenness to thirst. The Lord would not spare him, but then the anger of the Lord and his jealousy shall smoke against the man, and all the curses that are written in this book shall lie upon him, and the Lord shall blot out his name from under heaven, and the Lord shall separate him unto evil out of all the tribes of Israel, according to all the curses that the covenant of the covenant that are written in this book of the law, so that the generation to come of your children that shall rise up after you, and the stranger that shall come from a far land shall say, when they see the plagues of the land and the sickness from the Lord have laid upon it, and that the whole land thereof is brimstone and salt and burning, that it is not sown, nor beareth, nor any grass groweth therein, like the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, Amar and Zobeon, which the Lord overthrew in his anger and wrath. Even all the nations shall say, wherefore hath the Lord done this unto this land? What meaneth the heat of this great anger? Then men shall say, because they forsaken the covenant of the Lord God of their fathers, which he made with them when he brought them forth out of the land of Egypt. For they went and served other gods and worshipped them, gods whom they knew not, and whom he had not given them. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against this land, to bring upon all the curses that are written in this book. And the Lord rooted them out of their land in anger and in wrath and in great indignation, and cast them into another land, as it is this day. So this is actually a testimony against Israel if they continued in disobedience.
Hold on a second. Let me ask Amir, who else fits those curses? Who else fits those prophecies? Who else fit those scriptures? That's what folk want to know.
Well, let's see. Well, we have the Assyrian and Babylonian exile, so that was with ancient Israel and Judah. And see, well, we also have the Roman one that occurred in 70 AD and later 135 AD. So ancient Israel and Judah were the one that fit this. However, Assyria also practiced similar practices. I forget the treaty off the top of my head. They did similar practices with other nations. They would, other nations that were subdued under the empire would rebel, and in response of breaking the treaty or breaking, because the covenant here is structured like a vassal or a suzerain treaty. Basically, both parties would make a covenant, and if either one of them violated the covenant, then more particularly the vassal that is agreeing to this covenant, if he does not keep these oaths and these requirements and regulations, then may all these curses come upon him. So there's that context as well. But as to who fits this description, ancient Israel and Judah, and also the Judeans that were in Jerusalem that was sacked by Rome in 70 AD.
All right. Anybody else? Excuse me, before we get out of here.
I just want to say thanks, Vereen, for allowing me to come on the show.
No problem, man. I'm glad you came on. All right, come on, Angel Man.
No, same here, Barine. Thanks a lot for having me on. And just let me say, shout out to Sister E. I think, last show she made a very profound statement.
What she said?
It was in regard to second Exodus. She said that, once we are on a panel, it's hard to read the chat because we'll definitely get, sidetracked. But, she came across a couple of comments where it was actually maybe going against second Exodus with the study.
Slides from the other day.
Yeah, the study that he have done, and Sister E was saying that it is commendable with the research that he have done. Well, the same thing with the Hebrew Israelites. Okay, we have done our studies. Okay, and some of the stuff that we have come across in the Old Testament, is sometimes is kind of shunned by Christians. Okay, but we have done that study. Okay, so and we do claim to be the people, and if we are the people, it's very important that we know our records. Okay, and how dare anyone tell us what goes in the Bible and what should not go in there? If these are our records, then these records belong to us. Okay, so we have searched our records so we can know about our nation, and our nation shall be restored. Okay, and it shall rule all nations, because the Lord have spoken this, and what he have spoken, it shall be done. I yield with that.
All right, thank you so much, brother. All right, bro, you want to say anything in closing?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me on here.
Yeah, no
Inviting me
problem.
on here. Yeah. Also, just one more thing. The last part of the verse that we didn't get to finish. There is no purchaser. What you have there is an adverb of negation, participle or a participle. But basically, it's a verb. It's a form of negation. More particularly, there is no, there is not, and what you have preceding that is what's called a call active participle. It has three. One of the three usages is attribute, attributive, predicate, and substantive. How it's used in this particular verse is a substantive form. In other words, it's used as a noun. And in this case, it's a purchaser, an acquirer, a buyer, basically.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Hold on 1 second. My man just jumped on. He might have got a few words for you. I'm gonna mute my. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put the speaker on so I can hear y'all. I'm gonna take my headphones off though. Elder, what's good with you?
Shalom, brother Brian. How you doing, man?
Good, shalom. You had some questions or some statements to make. I'm gonna take my microphone off.
Well, I just wanted to say, I mean, I thought
his mic ain't working. I can't hear him.
Oh, you can't
hear me?
I can't hear him at all.
Hold on a minute.
Well, let me leave. I'm gonna come right back. Let me leave and come back.
Okay.
Hey, anybody in the chat, can they hear him? Or
Type of one if y'all could. I heard Wiggins. Do y'all hear Wiggins? Type of one if they 18 seconds behind us. Type of one if y'all heard. Right, here he is. He coming back. Let me see if it. Go ahead, Elder.
Can you guys hear me now?
okay.
Okay, cool, great. Okay, so I didn't hear much. I didn't hear all of the conversation, but some of the things I was hearing, I thought it was pretty good about what nation was led into captivity, into all nations after Jesus said those things. And I think the other day we were on here and I was asking the question, because we were talking about the color of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel. And I was saying that I believe from reading scripture that we see more scriptures of the color of the Israelites being black than we have scriptures that the Israelites are white. So my brother that's here on this panel, do you have any particular scripture that would show that the Israelites were white people, not mixed, but white people? Is that possible? Do you have any scripture to show that?
No, because the skin or phenotype of an ancient Israelite is never described at all in the text. Because, one, it was not even relevant. Phenotype and skin color was not even relevant to an ancient Israelite in any way, shape, or form in that day. Ancient Near Eastern peoples were more concerned with their ethnic identity in regards to the people group that they are part of, how they view themselves, and how they view their understanding of their history. That is what an ancient Near Eastern person was thinking. They were not thinking in a modern American context, which is,
So
basically phenotype and skin type, skin hue.
So you're telling me that when we read the scriptures, we have no scriptures in the Bible that would hint at the color of the Israelites in the scriptures. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay, so let me ask you another question. So when we talk about the Israelites, would they be when we talk about the ethnicity, would they be like a mixed ethnicity, or is it just one, color ethnicity, what I should say? How do you see that?
Well, ethnic identity has to do more with sociocultural phenomena like the language you speak, the people group you're a part of, your tribe, or in this case, the people group Yisrael, Israel, may El, or may God strive. And of course, Hebrew being the common language, Hebrew being the language, and also religion. Religion, there was no secular there was no holy or secular division. Both were intertwined, one same back in the day. And yeah, also ancestral mythos and stories like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All that. That is what makes up an identity.
Okay, so
Also symbols and etc.
so are you saying that Israel had a color? Do you think Israel had a color before today or no?
Of course they did.
Okay.
Everybody in the Middle East did.
And do you think that
Matter of fact, they still do.
do you think that the color of Israel had anything to do with black people?
The skin hue of ancient Israel would be literally indistinguishable from, say, a Bedouin or a Palestinian.
Okay, so the color of Israel didn't have anything to do with black people. Is that right? Well, I'm just trying to figure out. I don't know.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, great. So you're saying that the color of Israel don't have anything to do with black people, but you can't prove the color of Israel in the scripture at all. Is that right, or yes or no?
Yes, that's why you have to go outside of the Bible to look for that. And you see that with archaeology, with the finding of bones and genetic studies, etc. And all of that fits.
Okay.
And all those findings are pretty well indicative of an ancient Near Eastern Levantine people, i.e., like today.
So when you're saying the ancient okay, so can you give me that again? What color did you say that Israel would be? Are they the same color today that they were in the scriptures, or how do you view that?
They would have been the exact same skin hue and tone as your average Palestinian, Jordanian, and or Lebanese and Syrian.
Okay, great. I just want to find, I've been looking for somebody I can talk to ask these questions. And I really don't have a whole bunch to give my opinion about. I just want to just ask the question. So and you can ask me whatever questions you like. But my question is, so then you don't use the scriptures. So when we talk about the Jewish people today, do we use the scriptures at all to identify them, or we just go by the oral tradition that we hear through history?
Well, you got to be a little more specific with that one.
Okay, so when we're talking about the Jewish people today, what scriptures, not asking about the color. I'm not looking for the color, but what scripture do they have today that the Jewish people use to say that they are identified as the Israelites of the scriptures? I'm not talking about color. I just want to know, how do they see themselves in the scriptures?
Well, that's a whole different sort of history, because Israel wasn't just isolated to the land, because after the Babylonian exile, the majority of them didn't even come back. There was a small fraction. Everybody else pretty much stayed where they were, either in Babylon or Persia, or went to other parts of the world, like the Greco-Roman Empire and North Africa, and even further in Africa in some cases and instances. Let me finish. And wherever they usually settled, when they didn't have the women from the land with them, they took the women of their surrogate nations and converted them and had children with them and raised those children Jewish, and that continues to go on and on and on and on and on and on and on wherever they go. That would be more particularly with like European Jewish in, like, say, maybe the Middle East and North Africa. It's going to be a little different because their social dynamics are wholly different. They're more tribal and ethnic oriented.
Okay, so right now you don't have any scriptures to support Israel being white. You don't have any scriptures to support how what scriptures they use, the white Jews today use to identify them as Israelites? Those are two different questions. But yet we say that the Israelites can't be black. This is an interesting topic to me. Okay, so let me ask you another
Who's
question.
saying the Israelites can't be black?
Well,
That's
hold
what
on.
I asked my brother. I asked him
Well,
earlier, did he think that Israel
no,
had
no, no,
black people?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I walked away. I
no,
just
no, no,
came
no,
back.
no, no, no. What I said, ancient Israel specifically. That
Okay,
is what I
so
stated.
well, I asked you. Okay, let's digress. Do you think when we look at ancient Israel, it had anything to do with black people, or just how do you see that? I want Britain to hear your answer.
I already answered that. Like, are you? What do you mean by black? Are we referring to black in the modern sense, like here in the U.S., or?
Yeah, black, like the Aboriginal people of Africa are were black people, like blacks. Do you see any of the ancient Israelites like today? The African American people are called black people, right? Do you see any people like in Israel, ancient Israel, like the African American people, black people?
Well, it depends. Would you consider Palestinians to be black people?
It depends, like the modern day Palestinians or the ones I'm looking at today, because I'm not sure.
Was it the one
Modern day, the ones you're looking at
1,000
today,
years
would be
ago?
the same.
Hold on a second, y'all. Y'all know I'm getting ready to get shut it down. But come on, Kevin G, come to the microphone.
Hey, what's happening, y'all? What's going on?
What's going on, fam? What's going on?
All right. Hey, so I've just been working on a project, but I heard you guys are on pretty late. This is the latest I ever see you online.
Yeah, this is the latest I ever been on. But what are your thoughts? How long you been listening?
I've been listening for a good.
Hey, Kevin, I can't hear you.
Can't hear?
How you can't hear everybody that come in here? You might have to go out and come back in because he ain't hear Wiggins the first in the beginning.
Hey, you can't hear me because my mouth.
I can hear you good. I can hear you good.
Yeah, I'm gonna head off. Actually, I gotta head off because
okay, bro. Thank you, appreciate it. Come on, Kevin G. What's your words in closing?
Oh, yeah, you cut.
Oh no, Wiggins here. You want Wiggins?
Oh, well, yeah. Now, I mean, now I don't want to ask him anything. I mean, I wanted to come in and kind of talk with y'all, but he did, So.
Oh yeah, no. I just we were getting ready to get off here, but I thought you whatever. Come on, if you want to share something concerning what you heard, speak on it.
Shoot. I mean, it's a lot of questions being asked.
Wiggins is here. Right? Wiggins is here. I got a lot. Yeah, you have
it's a lot of questions being asked that don't make sense, right? So
hold on. Come on. What? Come on. Talk about it. What? Name a few of them.
All right. So, like asking whether somebody's white or black. Okay. For one, white and black are dynamics that we use today, right? We determine what's white and black is really more so an American thing to say who's white and who's black. And that's based on the phenotypes or origins of people as they come into this country and what they identify as. So when you take the census, you say somebody white or black, that's where you get it from. And also when somebody comes over here and they're white, they identify as white, but back in Europe, they do not identify as white. They don't do that. French people are different from your Greeks. Your Greeks are going to be different from your Sardinians. The Sardinians is going to be different from people from the Black Sea, Caspian Sea, and all those places like that. Turkey's not going to identify with people from Georgia, right? Georgia's not going to identify with Azerbaijan, right? But when they come over here, they're either going to be they really stick to their race. If you think about it, if you ask somebody, say they're white, they will get offended, and then to be like, "Oh, where are you from?" And they'll tell you, "Oh, I'm from Georgia," which is in Europe. And then they'd be like, oh, okay. And they speak a totally different, they're not with all that. So then this whole thing about is there anything in the Bible that talks about them being white?
White or black?
Yeah, but yeah, it's stupid, man. It's the most stupidest question you can ask because there's so many different phenotypes in the world. Africa alone has about 9 or so, right? You have people different heights. You have different people's skin tones. You have people that look different. East Africans look way different than West Africans. West Bantu Africans look way different than South Africans. South Africans don't look like Adamites that are basically like, I mean, those dudes are haplogroup D, and they look black is like, oh man, like beautiful skin. And then you have people in Papua New Guinea who look like people from New Guinea. And it's like, so then where do you say were they black? Now, if you're saying someone's black, and let's say it was somebody from Papua New Guinea, oh, they were black. That don't mean they were Bantu West Africans. They're not E1B1A at all. So then to identify something by skin.
Let me ask you a question. Is it okay to say we got white Israelites?
He keep talking about white.
You just asked the same
I'm
question
asking
that
a
I'm
question.
talking.
No. I'm asking you a question.
Is there
Because
such
when I'm
thing as
talking
white
about
Israelites?
slow
What do
down,
you mean by
slow
white?
down, slow
What do
down.
you mean by white?
Today, when we talk about, I asked a question about, do we think that the Aboriginal Israelites could have been black? So you want to deny the word black? Okay, so let's do it like this.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the question is
Slow
no,
down.
it's not about
I
it's not
want to
about
get slow
calming down.
down, but slow
I'm not
down.
in a mood.
I know.
I'm from Jersey. I'm trying to tell
Okay,
you
well,
something.
my
You
question is,
misunderstood.
I'm
You
trying to get.
misunderstand what I'm saying.
Well, hold on. Let me rephrase my question correctly. When we talk about ancient Israel today, back then, would there have been any people of color like the African American Negroes today? You know the word Negro
when
means
you
like,
say
when we say Negro,
golly,
we want to
brother, it's
say,
not that
wait, slow down. I'm not arguing dark. I'm arguing black. Okay.
Okay.
Are there in the ancient time, were there any people of color in Israel like the black Negroes?
Okay.
Yes or no?
You just said I need some clarification here. You said when you say black, you don't mean when you say people of color, you don't mean dark, you mean black. Now
Negroes.
I need to okay, so when you say Negroes,
black,
what are you
Negro
talking
means
about?
black. I just told you, Negro. Look it up if you don't
No,
understand
bro.
what I'm asking.
I know what Negro
Look
means,
up
man.
the word
It's a
Negro
Latin
for
word that
black.
means blood.
My
Bro,
question is, were there any ancient Israelites
Wiggins, you
like
doing
the
this?
black
You do this in Clubhouse,
Negro?
and you do this in Clubhouse, and you do it here because you
I
can't
asked you
handle.
a question.
No,
Were there
I'm
any?
answering your
Why are you
question,
coming
bro.
against my question? You came on here to have a dialogue, and I'm
No, I
asking you a
came on.
question.
No, Brother
Can
Bareen
you
asked
answer
me
my
the
question?
question. Hold on, Brother Bareen asked me the
I've been
question.
asking the question since
Hold on,
before
you
you
hard of
got
hearing.
here.
You hard of hearing. Brother Bareen asked me the question, Kevin, give your thoughts on this. And I
You
said,
said you wanted to talk to me. You thought I was
Stop,
gone, but
slow
I'm still
down,
here.
Elder Wiggins. You totally not you're not getting this here, right? Bareen asked me the question, Kevin, what is your thoughts on this? And I said, well, I originally came up here to have a conversation, but since you asked, well, here's my thoughts on it. Then you came up here and started saying, well, let me ask you.
Why are we digressing from the conversation? Get back to the conversation.
We already talked about that.
I just listen, Brother Brent. I'm going to leave because I don't feel like dealing with
I'll
this.
tell you what, brother.
I
Elder
want you
Wiggins,
to
to make
answer
this
the
more
question.
productive, I tell you what.
I just want you to answer the question. Don't talk about me. I'm not talking about you. I don't have anything to say negative about you. I just want you to answer the question.
Hey, brother, I wasn't talking about you. What are you talking about?
Hold on, Wiggins. Hold on, Wiggins.
Elder, I wasn't talking about you, but here's what I'll do, right? For the sake of the audience and for everybody that wants to listen, right? No problem. I tell you what, I will be quiet. I will let you ask your questions straightforward. And if you don't mind, I would like to ask clarifying questions if I can, if I don't understand what you're saying. And then we can go from there. I have no problem doing that. No problem.
Okay, now listen. You come up here strong and wrong, brother. Now,
what are you talking about?
Wait, slow down. Kevin, I don't feel like arguing with you today, okay?
Then
I just want to have a dialogue with you. And you come up here like you want to have a dialogue. And when I ask you questions, you just
no, bro, that's not what happened. Did you listen to what happened, man?
Okay, so I'll be wrong for whatever happened.
No, it's not. You don't have to be wrong. I'm saying you can.
Well, I just want to move to the Kevin. I'm supposed to go, brother.
Bro, why are you so agitated? Is it because it's 3 a.m? I'm a night owl.
I'm just trying to get to the. I don't want to.
All right, ask your question. I don't get it. I don't get what you got stumble about. Just I'm saying, hey, if you want to ask, you want to dialogue, cool. I'll be quiet. Just ask your question. And if I have any clarifying questions so I can better answer your question, I'll do that. Let's just move on from there. I don't get this whole
Kevin, can I
came on here wrong and strong. And it's like, bro, come on. Like, it's not complicated, man. Come on. Just come on, man.
Go ahead, Kevin. You're on mute. Your thing acting up. Your thing breaking up.
Oh, it is.
No, not yours. His. Go ahead. You want to say something closing? I'm gonna jump off, and then we'll just pick it up from tomorrow night.
Bro, I don't know, man. I don't want to talk about it no more because I don't want no more stuff like, oh, he just come up and talk. Hey, bear witness. Did I come up here and talk about the brother? Like, oh,
no. Wiggins been a little bit on edge, but go ahead. Say whatever you want to say, or you want to pick it up tomorrow. Let me know. We'll pick it up. We'll start with you tomorrow.
Yeah, that's cool. I can come on tomorrow if you go live like earlier. Okay. Then
like what time? Like what?
I'm saying if you go on because
my normal time.
What's your normal time on Saturday?
Saturday 6, 4, 5, 6.
Okay. All right.
And Sunday, about Sunday a little earlier, a little later.
Right. Yeah, I got people in the thing saying you would not get a straight answer. Oh, bro, come on, man. Neither one of them people talking would ever come up here and ask me a straight question ever. They like
but tomorrow we could start it like this. You'll be here and they can ask you some questions. Then they'll bring other people.
I'll tell people right now what I think about the topic, like what I was.
Go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
So you have different phenotypes that exist in the world, right? That's just point blank. Period. You have different phenotypes. You have people of different hues. Most of the world is melanated. That's a fact. Very few people in the world, or I would say somewhere around 20%, probably less than that, are not as melanated as the rest of the world. Most of your world is going to be melanated, from the islands that's off the coast of the Pacific to Hawaii to Australia, going up through China or Asia, Southeast Asia especially, especially your equatorial people, where a lot of people migrated. They're gonna be colored. That's just a fact. Now, but the question we're asking is in the context of modern day American view of black and white, right? So when we say, was this person black? The question that they're asking is coming from a standpoint of, was this person black like me as a West African who now arrived here in the Americas sometimes during the 14th and 15th century? And you will have to say, well, that's debatable. We don't have any proof that West African type phenotype typically people were in that area. Then there's the DNA question. Well, do we have DNA from people who existed in West Africa that had some traces over there? We do. We do have some DNA that was over there. But the question to ask historically is, how did that admixture take place? And what was involved at that time that kind of made that happen? Were these people just simply living around them? Who were these people? What kind of tribes were they a part of? Were they the progenitors of these people? Were they just living alongside them? A lot of detailed, necessary stuff like that. So then we can get a clearer picture as to how that line got over there. Now, to ask this question off the bat, I mean, everybody's answer should be, well, we don't know. Listen, the Bible don't say anything, not a thing, about somebody being phenotypically white and somebody being phenotypically black. However, there are things in the Bible that will conflict on either side. For example, the Egyptians, we know they were the melanated people, right? But when we look at their DNA, we're finding that a lot of them genetically are related to all kinds of haplogroups. And it's because of the conflict and the history that the Egyptians had as far as different dynasties and different conflicts that they had within different families.
Sorry, hold on a minute, Kevin. You could see you on your cell phone?
No, I'm on my computer.
Look at Wiggins. Wiggins been asking this all week.
Where's the proof that the Israelites are white and not black? There is no proof in the Bible that shows that they are white or not black. There is no proof in archaeology that talks about them even being white or black. Based on migrations, history, archaeology, what we see in the records and everything, we can guess that these people were a melanated type people. I wouldn't say that they're phenotypically West African because we have no proof that they are West African or Bantu expansion people. But we do have plenty of proof they were melanated people for the simple fact of their neighbors, right? You have all kinds of people in that place. Elam, Shulamite. You have the people of Mesopotamia. You have the people of Persia. Like, these weren't white people, these were colored people. These were melanated people in and around the area.
Colored's not good enough for Wiggins. Wiggins want to hear they black.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Wiggins wants to hear that they look, sound, they're genetically the same as West African Bantu black people, and it's just nothing for that. It's nothing for that at all.
Based on Acts 13, they were called Niger. He said Barnabas too, but Simon of Cyrene.
He misquoted that verse. Look what he put down. He says, "Now there was in the church of Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simon, that was called Niger." It doesn't say it like that. He reworded that. If you go and actually look at the verse, it don't say that. It was Simon or Simeon who was the one who was called Niger. Yes, not Barnabas and not the rest of the disciples. It was.
But he said no. He found another version that Barnabas was called that also.
No, it's not. If you look at the scripture, you look at any Greek critical text, which is the most manuscript copies of the New Testament. We have 25,000 copies of the New Testament. 11 to 12,000 of those is in Greek, right? When you look at it, it will actually tell you in the Greek, it's Simeon who was called Niger. It was only Simeon who was called that. He says, who was called? It didn't say they were called. It says who was called.
That's
you
true.
see that in every Greek translation. So I don't know where they get that.
He said today Israel is seen as white. They don't
no, they not. No, that's a lie, bro. No, okay. That's a lie, bro. That's a lie. Today Israel is not seen as white. Jews in America. Jews in America. Now, you from New York.
Yes, correct.
Now, Jews in America, every Goldstein, Brown, this, that, and the other, they looked at as white. You know, they come over, they talk and everything like that. But I'm telling you, when you go in their community,
Europe, they were never seen like that. They were never seen part of the what they weren't.
They weren't.
Europe.
No, they weren't. In fact, when you go back to the history of the Jews that first came to Georgia from Portugal and Spain, 74 of them came over. About 30 of them were Ashkenazi Jews. And they lived and built communities with those Sephardic Jews that came over. Now, these people weren't called white. They were called Jews, and they were called Swarthy for the simple fact they had black eyes, black hair.
Oh boy!
So they didn't call them anything like they weren't like white. Nobody called them white. And if you go to New York, you see Jews. Of course, you're gonna see them phenotypically white because they're in America. They've been admixed and they've been here. They've been in New York for a long time. So they mixed in with Italians. They mixed with Irish people. They mixed with some of the Europeans and Germans that was already over there. When they came over here, they brought some of their counterparts and wives that were white as well, or what we consider white and European white. So I mean, like, that's just what it is. Like when you go over there, though, when you go over to Israel, what you're going to find is this: you're going to see black. You're going to what we call black. You're going to see white. You're going to see olive. You're going to see brown. You're going to see different kinds of people who call themselves Jews. And they're all at the Wailing Wall. They're in the synagogues. They're all worshiping the same God. And they don't look at any of that. Now, for the political situation that goes there with the West Bank and some of the things in regards to territories in the West Bank, which is the west of the River Jordan, we see that there is a lot of racism that goes on between different races within the Jewish congregation. So they deal with the same things. So they unify and call themselves Israelites or Israel, and they're one people. They do. Similar in America, we have one ethnicity, which is American. We're American. This is what we are.
Nation,
however,
that's right. Yeah.
Do we have racial division in America?
Within the nation, yes.
So
correct.
They have the same thing over there. So one who is Jewish, who is more white looking, versus one who is Jewish, who is more black looking or African looking, they will not tell the other one you're not a Jew. They won't do that.
No,
however, they have a problem. You're black and I'm white.
Yes,
because of the mess and the propaganda and everything that's been going on for racism for a long time. And that's the reason why they looked at each other like that. Now, what the brother was saying earlier that was here, back then in antiquity, he says that, his words now, there was no such thing that people looked at a black Jew and a white Jew and this, that, and the other. And that could have been the case. That might have been the case. But at the same time, you had the issue with Moses and his wife, right? When you got the Ethiopian wife, who's the one that raised hell about it?
Yep.
Sister.
Yep.
And the sister raised hell saying, well, how could you be with this Ethiopian woman, this, that, and the other? And because of that, God cursed her. And, so I would never say that people did not have an issue with race and how people looked and stuff. I think we always had that issue, but I don't think the Bible highlights that as these people were dark and these people were whiter and these people were that. The Bible don't touch on that.
Not at all. All right, bro. We'll pick it up. We'll pick it up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Why are the Ethiopians? No, they're not. I don't think they're unless I missed something. They're not really deporting the Ethiopians. They wanted to deport those that came from America back in the 70s, something like that.
Oh no. Jay Jackson's on it. She's right. There's some racism going on there.
If Ethiopian Jews. I gotta leave. I gotta let
bro. Yeah. If you go to Russia Today, which is a news broadcast for Russian television, they have a story that Israel actually tried to practice what's the word I'm looking for? It's like when they keep you from having a baby. What's that?
Like
sterile
control. Yes, sterilization.
Yeah. So they've been doing that around the Ethiopian Jews. What she's referring to was called Bet Israel. So Bet Israel, that name Bet Israel is called House of Israel or House of God or whatever. And they've been living there for a while now. But when Benjamin Netanyahu was prime minister, he did allow those Ethiopian Jews to come over and say, "Hey, you can call this home." But the papists didn't like it. They didn't like that.
80 and 90, back in year.
Now, here's the thing: could Benjamin Netanyahu's was that a part of his agenda to fill up the West Bank? Because keep in mind, they're trying to fill up the West Bank. If you don't know the situation there over in Israel, the Palestinians want the West Bank, which is the west of the Jordan. That's why they call it the West Bank.
And they want it, and them Jews want everything.
They want it. So the way they're trying to do it, they're occupying the West Bank by building settlements. So I wouldn't be so. I always thought about this, bro, and I still wait for the day because it may happen. Israel might get so desperate to fill up that West Bank, they could probably put about 40 million people in that area. 30, probably 20 million people, probably less than that, right? What if they adhere to the claims that Black Americans are making, saying that they're Jews?
That'll be the new.
They might say
they'll bring them over. They'll pay and bring them over like they did the Ethiopians
for political reasons, probably to say, "Hey, occupy the West Bank." Sure, you're
but then
Israel
some
now.
people could look at that as fulfillment of prophecy too.
True, and it may be because prophecy does say that they will live in homes that they did not build. They will live in places where they did not dig. Right. So the whole idea is that the West Bank is actually properties and houses being built with nobody living in them. They're just building them.
That might be something to look at. We'll pick this up tomorrow, brother.
Huh?
We'll pick it up tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, bro. All right, y'all. Good night. It was long. The Red Bull done ran out. The other one was frozen. All right. Good night, everybody.